Chapter 901. Give me your horse. Don't waste your breath on me. Outside the forest, Zhou Juanxiang kicked the scout off his horse and galloped off into the distance. Before long, the dull sound of hooves could be heard from afar. The main force of the Blue Flame Army had arrived. They covered the entire mountain and plains in a grandiose manner. War flags with bare bodies fluttered in the wind, and the roars of giant dragons could be heard in the sky. Zhou Juanxiang felt a lump in his throat as sorrow welled up within him. Commander. I want to see Lord Commander. Zhou Juanxiang spurred his horse in the opposite direction of the crowd. All of the Blue Flame Army soldiers were dumbfounded. What was wrong with this vanguard commander? He looked like he had lost his soul. Furthermore, he was the only one who had returned. Many of them immediately thought of something they shouldn't have. Commander. Zhou Juanxiang's voice was extremely sorrowful. It's Commander Zhou. Amidst the crowd, Fu Yu held his saber and slowly stopped his warhorse. He said, "What's going on? Why are you the only one back? Where are the others?" Reporting to Commander, we were ambushed by Green Lake. Lin Muyu led an army of 200,000 and descended from the sky. They surrounded this subordinate's 10,000 men. This subordinate was almost captured alive. I killed 1,000 of them with my sword and finally managed to break out of the encirclement. Now I can see Commander again. However, the 10,000 brothers of the Vanguard Battalion. What happened to 10,000 men? They were completely annihilated. Zhou Juanxiang was on the verge of tears. What did you say? Fu Yu suddenly clapped his hands and said, Zhou Juanxiang, you've got guts. I gave you 10,000 men to lead the Vanguard, but you actually annihilated them all. How can you be the commander of the Vanguard? On the side, Han Shu, the deputy commander of the Dragon Rider Regiment, who was slowly descending on a giant dragon, narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, Commander Zhou, since you said that you killed more than 1,000 people before escaping, why don't you pull out your sword for us to see if there's any blood on it? Zhou Juanxiang's face was ashen. My treasured sword can cut through iron like mud and kill without any blood. Deputy Commander, there's no need to check, right? Nonsense. How can there be a sword that can kill without spilling blood? Fu Yu was infuriated as he yelled, Men, take down Zhou Juanxiang and hand him over to the military law office. Once I'm done with Lin Muyu, I'll slowly take care of you, trash. Spare me, Commander. Lin Muyu is like a god, he has 200,000 troops. Oh no, 500,000 troops. Drag him away. Fu Yu was so angry that his entire body was trembling. Why do I have such useless subordinates? I'm so angry. Han Shu indifferently said, Commander, there's no need to be polite. We've brought an army of 100,000 here to encircle and annihilate them. I believe that Lin Muyu won't be able to escape even if she grows wings. According to the time and direction of the surprise attack on Zhou Juanxiang's troops, Lin Muyu and the others will definitely continue in the direction of Zhanlong Pass. Rather than chasing after them, we might as well wait for them. We'll set up an ambush near Bailu Hill and kill them. Good, Lord Han Shu's words are to my liking. Fu Yu nodded and said, I wonder if the Marshal's army has arrived at Zhanlong Pass. Don't worry, the Marshal has 150,000 troops in his hands. With a pincer attack from the front and the back, Lin Muyu's army of 50,000 definitely won't be able to break out of the encirclement. We'll only intercept them at Bailu Hill but not block them. We'll give them a path to Zhanlong Pass. This way they won't fight with their lives on the line, and we'll be able to sit back and reap the benefits, killing the most enemies with the least cost. Brilliant plan, haha, what a brilliant plan. Fu Yu laughed heartily. With Lord Han Shu following the main force of my Blue Flame Army, I believe that this time, Lin Muyu and that old dog Jin Yifan really won't be able to escape even if they grow wings. Pass down my order, immediately change direction and advance towards Bailu Hill. Bailu Hill was a hill in the middle of the White Radiance mountain range. It got its name because the rocks on the hill were white in color. The mountainous terrain of the Bailu Hill region was extremely rugged and difficult to pass through. However, it was the only path along the mountain, making it easy to defend and hard to attack. Until midnight, the Qin army finally appeared within the range of Bailu Hill. From afar, their figures could be seen indistinctly. Marching under the moonlight, they seemed extremely exhausted. Not good, there's an ambush. Zheng Yifan, who was on his horse, suddenly opened his eyes and said. He was also in the God Realm, so he could still sense the auras of Han Shu, Fu Yu, and the other God Realm experts in the distance. Lin Muyu had sensed it earlier, but she didn't say it out loud. Under the light of the torches, he looked at the map again and said, Bailu Hill. Bailu Hill. Looks like we won't be able to avoid this calamity no matter what. Wei Chou said, looking at the number of flags on Bailu Hill, their numbers shouldn't be less than 100,000. They are the main force of the Blackstone Empire. Are we going to break through just like that? There's only one path to Zhanlong Pass from here, but we still have to pass through it. If we return to Tiger Subdue Pass now, we won't have enough rations anymore. Our rations will only last for 3 days and we've just arrived at Zhanlong Pass. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with worry. Su'er said, but if we force our way through, I'm afraid we'll suffer heavy losses. Look, they're on the 2 sides of Bailu Hill and there's only one path we can take. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. Wei Chou said, if your highness doesn't have a military order, the entire army will continue to advance. What are you thinking? Su'er said. She really didn't want the entire army to be annihilated here. After all, the Zither Dragon army had been established for many years, and a lot of it had been the sweat and tears of her father and herself. Now that Su Muyun had passed away, if the Zither Dragon army was annihilated, how could she face her father in the future? Zheng Yifan frowned but didn't say anything. He just kept looking at Lin Muyu from the corner of his eyes. He didn't believe that the Qin emperor, who had unparalleled achievements and strategies, would really be at a loss. Sure enough, after waiting for nearly 2 minutes, Lin Muyu suddenly said softly, our Longdan army camp has a total of more than 300 heavenly tomes of the Law of Fire. They have already recovered their spiritual power and can be used again. Before Scholar Su Hao left, he gave me another 10 high-grade heavenly tomes, more than 30 middle-grade heavenly tomes, and nearly 100 low-grade heavenly tomes. All of them are heavenly tomes of the Law of Fire. Look, Bailu Hill is very rugged and steep, but the areas close to the flat ground are very flat. This means that they won't be able to use rolling stones to attack us. Moreover, Bailu Hill is lush with foliage. Once we attack with fire, no matter how many people they ambush, they will all be burned to death on the hill. This also means that we only need to defend against their crossbow attacks. The corner of Zheng Yifan's mouth curled up, revealing a smile. Su Yu and Wei Chou, on the other hand, were startled and hadn't reacted yet. Lin Muyu continued, pass down the order, the entire army will rest for 2 hours, then start to pass through Bailu Hill. The shield bearers will be outside, the cavalry will be in front, and the archers will be in the middle. The shield bearers must raise their shields above their heads. In addition, gather all of our magic crystal crossbows and open up a path in front of us. While we set fire to the mountain, we will force our way out. Since the people of the Blackstone Empire want to ambush them, then let us have a taste of our own medicine. Wei Chou, Situ Sen, Situ Shui and the rest all smiled. Everyone seemed to be very pleased. As long as Lin Muyu was in the army, the Longdan army camp would be invincible. 2 hours later, the army began to gather together and slowly passed through the passage between the 2 mountain ranges of Bailu Hill. Fortunately, this passage was relatively wide and could accommodate nearly 100 people at the same time. As a result, the overall formation wasn't too loose and long. When there were shadows in front of them, the sound of drums suddenly sounded on the mountain. Sure enough, it was densely packed with soldiers in ambush. They're here. Wei Chou smiled. Blow the conch horn and set fire. The conch horn sounded in the Longdan army camp. The stronger soldiers on both sides of the formation took out the embryonic form of the heavenly book. Instantly, rays of azure light shot up into the sky. The scene was spectacular. Tongues of fire spewed toward the mountain ranges on both sides. It happened to be a scorching summer, and the flames of the heavenly book quickly burned the forest. Lin Muyu's figure slowly rose, and an elephant wheel rapidly expanded and extended under her feet. She shouted in a low voice, all the manifestations of heaven and earth, listen to my command. Borrowing the momentum, violent wind. A spectacle appeared. Endless violent wind blew toward the mountain ranges on both sides of the mountain range. The wind fueled the fire, and the fire rushed up the mountain like tongues of fire. The soldiers who were drawing their bows could not dodge in time and were immediately engulfed by the fire. Moreover, the fire was so powerful that the heavenly book was activated in an instant. The Ashen Flame army did not have much time to think and suffered heavy losses. Demonic crystal crossbows, go! Wei Chou shouted. Countless arrows glowing with a purple light landed on the group of people in front of them. Instantly, a wave of hot air rippled out. In the air, Lin Muyu finished summoning the wind and quickly pulled out her sword. With a low roar, she once again gathered the power of the invisible elephant art. Spirit beads of law appeared around her as she slashed out with her sword. Buzz! A golden elephant will pierce through the people in the air like a laser beam. 2 dragon knights were immediately injured and fell. Wu, Han Shu held his long saber and rode his huge dragon back dozens of meters. Even with his strength, he was still forced back by the invisible elephant art. He could not help but feel a chill in his heart. The last time they fought, Lin Muyu was not that strong. But now she was as strong as a monster. Don't panic, go. Break their formation. Fu Yu raised his long saber and shouted. However, without the protection of the dragon battle spiral, how could the formation withstand the attacks of the demonic crystal crossbows? After nearly 100 rounds of demonic crystal crossbows, the mountain path was already a mess. Without waiting for Fu Yu to regroup, thousands of soldiers and horses charged out from the flames in front of them. It was the 20,000 Qin army cavalry led by Wei Chou and Situ Shui. They were the elites of the elites. Lin Muyu slashed out dozens of elephant wheels in the air, forcing back nearly 20 dragon knights. For a moment, the divine power in her body was greatly depleted. She landed on the ground and charged forward with the others on her warhorse. As the swords and sabers clashed, the elite cavalry of the Longdan army camp charged forward like leaves being swept away by the wind. Fu Yu, Han Shu, and the others were blocked by the white drill arrows of the Longdan army camp at the periphery of the formation. Coupled with the deterrence of God-rank experts like Lin Muyu and Jin Yifan, they did not dare to attack the enemy's army recklessly. After all, it was only a legend to take the head of a general in the midst of an army of tens of thousands. Chapter 902. How could this be? Fu Yu held onto his long saber as he retreated with the defeated crowd. He muttered to himself in a daze. His face was ashen as the screams of the Blue Flame army could be heard all over the mountain. 2 of the White Dew Hills had already been engulfed in flames. He would never have imagined that Lin Muyu would dare to take the initiative when faced with an army that was twice his size. He even took the initiative to ask for a battle. Was this person really a lunatic? Life was like a chessboard and so was war. The difference between the strong and the weak could change at any moment. Fu Yu had only relied on the favorable timing and geographical advantage, as well as the overwhelming strength of the Dragon Knights. But he did not expect that the army of over 20 Dragon Knights led by Han Shu would be easily repelled by Lin Muyu's dozens of attacks. Facing the charge of the Qin cavalry on the ground who were adept in battle, Fu Yu felt helpless. As a god, when faced with the aura of mortals, he felt the helplessness of being conquered. The sound of hooves thundered. In the blink of an eye, the tens of thousands of soldiers on the flat ground were scattered. Lin Muyu and Wei Chou led the cavalry back and launched another attack to cover the retreat of the infantry. When Han Shu and the rest of the Dragon Knights dived down from the sky, the Qin army had already passed through Bailu Mound and started cruising south. Are we going to pursue them? Flames rose to the skies on Bailu Mound. Fu Yu's face was stained with blood, and the long saber in his hand was dripping with blood. He asked, "Should we pursue them?" Han Shu's expression was extremely ugly. "Forget it. The tiger has escaped its cage. We can no longer pursue them. How many of us are on the mound?" Fu Yu asked. The vice commander's face was pale. 40,000. How many are still alive? Less than half. Damn it. Fu Yu roared, "Despicable and shameless Lin Muyu. One day I will chop off your head. Just you wait." Han Shu was silent. Killing Lin Muyu wouldn't be that easy. More importantly, ever since the Blackstone Empire invaded the Shattered Cauldron realm, they had been carrying out the order to massacre all those who resisted. The entire Blackstone Empire didn't have the support of the people in the Shattered Cauldron realm at all. They only relied on frenzied slaughter and military might to conquer this continent. Now the Ashen Flame Army and the Sea and Mountain Army were dwindling, and they couldn't get any supplies. Forget about continuing to conquer the Lingnan Province and Mingshan Province, they couldn't even defend the Lingkong Province. However, the generals of the Blackstone Empire were all proud and arrogant. They didn't care about the commander-in-chief of the Qin army at all. Even now, they still believed that the Qin army was just a motley crew. The most frightening thing was that even the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies, Bailey Qin, thought the same. Bailey Qin was born cold and arrogant, and he didn't care about anyone. Although he had become a marshal, he had offended many people. If it weren't for his tyrannical strength, he would have long since been assassinated. Extreme hardness is easy to break. This was a principle that had never changed since time immemorial. The Blackstone Empire's army lacked a tyrannical opponent. But now this opponent had appeared. Lin Muyu's repeated defeats of the Ashen Flame Army had already proven this principle. In terms of strategy and tactics, Fu Yu didn't even have the qualifications to be a student in front of famous generals like Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and Jin Yifan. What's more, these famous generals were actually able to work together and kill the enemy side by side. Thinking of this, Han Shu couldn't help but shiver. He actually felt a little afraid. He was no longer so optimistic about the outcome of this battle. Lord Han Shu, are you all right? Fu Yu asked. I'm fine. Han Shu wiped some medicine on the wound of his dragon steed. It was a wound caused by a white drill arrow. It was hard to imagine how powerful that Wei Chao's arm strength was, to be able to use a white drill arrow to pierce through the dragon's scales. It was simply too freakish. Fu Yu was a little out of his wits. Now, what should we do? Treat the wounded and bury the corpses of the dead. Han Shu let out a sigh of relief. Save as many as we can, then regroup and follow Lin Muyu's troops to Dragon Slaying Pass. We'll launch a pincer attack with the marshal's army and let Lin Muyu have a taste of defeat. My lord is absolutely right. Fu Yu repeatedly nodded his head. At this moment he had already lost his composure. The Blackstone Empire had always valued martial prowess over culture. They had always relied on force to subdue their enemies. The Ashen Flame Army, a dignified main force of the Empire, actually did not have a decent group of strategists. Even the original 3 strategists had been whipped and dismissed by Fu Yu after drinking. Fu Yu's temperament was violent and savage. What he hated the most was people pointing fingers at him. Sending a group of strategists to him was tantamount to taking his life. But at this moment, Fu Yu felt how foolish he had been, even though he was very unwilling to admit it. The people who had come down from the mountain were all crying. Many of them had been burnt to a crisp. The military doctors were busy saving people, but they discovered that there was no value in saving them at all. Their hands had been burnt off, and there were countless people who had been crippled. Even if they were saved, they would not be able to step onto the battlefield again. Saving them would only be a waste of medicine. Forget it, Fu Yu's gaze was cold. There's no need to save the crippled. Give them a knife and let them end their own lives. Consider it their final display of loyalty to the Empire. If they are unwilling, send my law enforcement squad. The medical officer was slightly taken aback. What's wrong, Lord Sun? Is there a problem? Fu Yu coldly laughed. The medical officer lowered his head and said, This subordinate is only a doctor. I will follow the commander's orders. It's just that these soldiers are all children of the Empire. It's a bit too cruel to let them die under the blades of our own people. Then what does Lord Sun think is appropriate? This subordinate does not know. Then don't talk nonsense and do as I say. Yes. Fu Yu's voice was cold as he said, Pass down the order. After resting for 4 hours we will set off for the Dragon Slaying Pass. As long as we break through the Dragon Slaying Pass, we will be able to kill our way into the Southern Ridge Province. Every city we come across will be massacred. Consider it a gift to Lin Muyu. Yes. The group of generals saluted in unison. Each and every one of them had an excited expression on their faces. At this moment, it was as if they had forgotten the tragic deaths of their companions. What appeared in their minds were shining white silver coins and women, as well as the rich cities and beautiful rivers and mountains. In the depths of the courtyard of the Dragon Slaying Pass, the night breeze blew and the green willow branches swayed. It was indescribably tranquil. A lonely figure sat in the pavilion. It was Sheen. She sat there alone, listening to the sound of the wind. Her elegant eyebrows were tightly knitted, and her entire person was like a beautiful statue. Still not sleeping? It's late at night. Behind her, Terilyn's voice appeared. Have you also heard the news? Sheen murmured. What news? Lin Muyu led tens of thousands of people straight to the Dragon Slaying Pass. She even sent out a request for reinforcements, requesting Su Jiantao to lead his troops out of the pass to receive them. Sheen's eyes were like water. She looked at the lotus pond in front of her and said, He came, he really came. Terilyn smiled and hugged her fragrant shoulders. Little fool, what are you so flustered about? Could it be that you are afraid to see him? No, it's not like that. I also can't explain it clearly. I just feel that if I really see him, I'm afraid it will be time for me to make a choice. Sheen faintly sighed and said, I can feel him coming. The closer he gets, the more the power in my body will boil. I feel, it's time for me to make a choice. What exactly do you want to do? Terilyn frowned. I don't want to harm you. Sheen softly said, Terilyn, take Lake and Zhou Shimin and leave the Dragon Slaying Pass. Once I make a decision, there is no turning back. If you continue to follow me, it means that you have betrayed the Western Divine Realm. That is the scene I don't want to see the most. I don't want you to sacrifice so much for me. Then do you want to see us face each other with swords? Terilyn's voice suddenly became stern. Sheen, I don't want to be your enemy. We are friends. If you stay here, I will stay here. I will obey the ruler's will. I will always follow you and listen to your orders until the ruler gives me the next order. Why do you have to deceive yourself like this? Sheen smiled bitterly. Terralyn also smiled. Aren't we all deceiving ourselves? Tell me, what exactly do you want to do? My identity is about to be confirmed. Sheen said. What did you remember? Yes. Sheen nodded heavily and said, even though it's only fragments of memory, I remember it now. That palace is called Zetian Palace. That's where I grew up. I can remember the color of the tiles and bricks of Zetian Palace, and what kind of armor the guards of Zetian Palace wore. Moreover, after I described it, Su Jiantao and Xiangyu confirmed that Zetian Palace is exactly the same as in my memory. So, you really are Qinin? I don't know, I can't confirm it. I don't really remember those past events. She closed her eyes in pain and said, I feel like my head was squeezed out by someone. I am no longer that me and I can't remember my true self. Don't worry, Terralyn hugged her shoulders and comforted her. You will definitely remember. Maybe when that Lin Muyu comes, you will remember everything. Yes, I hope so. Right, what did you mean by the order you issued last night? What do you mean? Late last night, Ding Shi led the 20,000 Shin Legion out of the city. I still don't know where he went. Don't think I didn't find out. And now, Xiangyu is preparing his troops and seems to be about to leave the dragon-slaying pass. What do you want to do? So you already know. Sheen murmured. Terralyn giggled. I am a god. Can the affairs of mortals escape my eyes? Hurry up and tell me, what are your intentions for doing this? I was thinking. Sheen pursed her red lips and said, I was thinking, if I really am that Qinin, the Empress of the Qin Empire, what should I do? For example? For example, destroying Bailey Qin's 250,000 troops. Her expression was indescribably normal, as if she was talking about eating 25 grapes. Terralyn trembled. Crazy, this is simply crazy. Chapter 903. Advance at full speed. In the fertile fields of Yunzhong province, the sound of horse hooves thundered, purple flags fluttered in the forest, rows after rows of iron hooves swept past. Other than the Empire's war flag, there was also the flag of the Imperial Guards. This cavalry of over 50,000 men could be said to be the most numerous and the strongest troop in the entire Qin Empire. Zhang Wei held onto his blade and spurred his horse to gallop at the side of the formation. He was the main general of this battle, leading a total of 50,000 men. This was the first time. Feng Jixing led 50,000 archers and followed closely behind as the center of the army. Luo Yu and Qin Yong each led tens of thousands of men on the left and right flanks. Last was the 60,000 garrison troops of Tianshu province. The entire army had over 200,000 men. When Tongyun Pass, where Tang Xiaoxi was attacked, Yu Yu's letter was sent over. The moment he received it, Feng Jixing was already burning with anxiety. He knew Tang Xiaoxi's personality. If it was not a matter of life and death, Tang Xiaoxi would definitely not ask for help. There was no sound of war drums. The entire army just moved forward quickly. There were war eagles soaring in the sky, opening the path for the three armies. Zhang Wei's order was to quickly reinforce, advance at full speed, directly attacking the Longji army's camp from the back, and coordinate with Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Shaoli's troops in the city, to destroy the Longji army in one move. It was time. Feng Jixing had almost revealed all his trump cards in this battle. One day later. The Wild Horse Plains was hot. A group of wolf soldiers from the northern desert had never experienced the weather of this so-called Central Plains. The northern desert big wolf Lord Mao Dun took off his iron helmet that was inlaid with goose down. He fanned his palms to cool himself, but no matter how he tried, he could not cool down. He said impatiently, there is no water source here, there is not even shade. Feng Lan actually ordered my 100,000 wolf soldiers to stand guard here. What exactly does she mean? Could it be that she wants to use the hot weather to exterminate my northern desert wolf tribe? Second Wolf Lord sneered, who knows? The Longji army is attacking the city. This time it seems like they have changed. They actually did not let us wolf soldiers touch Tongyun Pass. I really do not know what Tianji country is thinking. At the side, the man shrouded in a black robe smiled. What is it? Does Mr. Guan have something to say? Mao Dun asked unhappily. Guan Xing was originally a strategist of the Great Qin Empire. After he was captured, he became the strategist of the Great Wolf Chieftain. In the entire northern desert wolf tribe, Guan Xing was probably the only strategist. Can't you tell, Great Wolf Lord? Guan Xing smiled faintly and said, Feng Lan, Lin Tonghai and Dora are determined to take the Cloud Pass. Once they take the Cloud Pass, they can easily take the Seven Seas province. Since ancient times, there is a saying that the one who takes the two provinces in the north will have half of the country. If the Seven Seas province and the Cloud Pass are both taken by the Tianji Empire, then the Qin Empire's destiny is really over. What do you mean? Mao Dun did not understand. Stargazer said, to put it simply, Fang Lan doesn't trust us wolf soldiers. He feels that it's a waste of time for us to attack the city, so he urgently sends his most elite subordinates to attack, attempting to take Cloud Pass in one fell swoop and take over the Seven Seas province. That's why he only sent 100,000 wolf soldiers to stand guard here, to block Feng Jixing's troops from the south. As he spoke, a bright light flashed in Stargazer's eyes and he said, Feng Jixing is a famous general that's hard to come by, and his battle formations are famous for being steady and steady. Once Feng Jixing finds out that Cloud Pass has been attacked, he'll definitely reinforce Tang Xiaoxi. At that time, our 100,000 wolf troops will have to face the 100,000 elites under Feng Jixing's command, and at least 100,000 new recruits from Dubhe province. Big Wolf Lord was slightly stunned. What should we do? If that Feng Jixing really attacks, how are we going to resist them? We can't resist them. Guan Xing said calmly, the reason why the Tianji Empire is invincible is that they have dragon knights, who can resist the magic crystal cannons of the Qin army, but we don't. Once Feng Jixing uses the magic crystal cannons, magic crystal crossbows and other weapons, I am afraid our wolf soldiers will become the targets of slaughter. Then what should we do? Big Wolf Lord was a little flustered. Guan Xing smiled, there is only one way, to negotiate peace with Feng Jixing. What? Second Wolf Lord immediately drew his sword and said sternly, I knew that you are still loyal to the Qin family, boy. Now you finally show your fox's tail? You want us wolf soldiers to negotiate peace with Feng Jixing? Dream on. I will kill you now, and let's see how you can bewitch the army with your glib tongue. Guan Xing remained calm in the face of the sharp blade. He smiled and said, Second Wolf Lord, if you want to kill me, just do it. After I die, the 100,000 wolf soldiers will vanish in the blink of an eye. They will be buried with me. The 100,000 wolf soldiers can't even defeat Luo Xan, who is guarding the northern region, let alone Feng Jixing himself. Let me tell you, one Feng Jixing can kill 10 Luo Xan. Second Wolf Lord roared and swung his long sword down. Clang. A sharp sword blocked Second Wolf Lord's long sword. It was Big Wolf Lord's sword. He knocked away the long sword and said coldly, Second brother, do you want the northern desert to be doomed eternally? But big brother. The veins on Second Wolf Master's face bulged and he said, This Guan Xing is from the central region and has been influenced by the Qin family's etiquette. He is a slave in his bones. How could he care about the northern desert? Brother, have you ever thought about it? We have 150,000 wolf soldiers on our way here from the northern desert and we have already lost 50,000 of our men. What's more, we besieged the Twilight Rain City and forced the Duke of the North, Luo Xan, to his death. Do you think Feng Jixing would be willing to make peace with his mortal enemy? Not necessarily. Guan Xing said fearlessly, Feng Jixing is a hero, he knows what is important and what is not. We all know how strong Feng Jixing's army is. Even if we can destroy Feng Jixing's army with Tang Xiaoxi's force, we will suffer great losses. How are we going to defend against Bai Minghuan's 300,000 soldiers? Big Wolf Lord squinted his eyes and said, Mr. Guan Xing, you mean, we do have a chance to negotiate peace? Yes. Guan Xing nodded and said, but first, Big Wolf Lord has to show his sincerity. Otherwise, with Feng Jixing's personality, he might really kill all 100,000 wolf soldiers just like Second Wolf Lord said. What kind of sincerity? If I am not wrong, Feng Jixing will definitely order our 100,000 wolf soldiers to turn around and attack the rear of Longji's army. Big Wolf Lord needs to make the decision. Should we bet on the Qin family or the kingdom of Tianji? Big Wolf Lord took a deep breath and said, the Qin family. Why, big brother? Why do you think the Qin family will win this war? Second Wolf Lord looked confused. The kingdom of Tianji is militarizing. We have already received news that the celestial pole continent is in chaos. The kingdom of Tianji, the Celestial Empire, and the Blackstone Empire have already declared war on each other. The kingdom of Tianji should no longer be able to send troops to the Shattered Cauldron realm, but the Qin family is still fighting. Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, and Su Jiantao are all famous generals. The hearts of the people are still on the Qin family's side. If this continues, the kingdom of Tianji will completely retreat from the Shattered Cauldron realm continent in less than 3 years. Mao Dun had always been barbaric and cruel, but this time he was calm for once. He even saw the situation so clearly that Guanxing was a little surprised. Big Wolf Lord is wise, you can see through everything. Is that so? Ah. Mao Dun looked coldly at Guanxing and said, since Mr. Guan thinks that we should negotiate for peace, then Mr. Guan shall bring my personally written letter to Feng Jixing's troops to negotiate. We can only succeed in this matter. Failure is not allowed. Guanxing was stunned. At least for now, the wolf soldiers were the Qin family's mortal enemies. For Big Wolf Lord to ask him to negotiate for peace was equivalent to pushing him up a cliff. He could lose his life at any time, but he seemed to have no other choice. Yes, your subordinate understands. He bowed. Men, prepare the brush and ink. Soon Big Wolf Lord finished writing the letter and handed it to Guanxing. He then said, where is Tuoba Lien? A general hurriedly walked out of the battle formation and said respectfully, your subordinate is here. Please give me your orders, Big Wolf Lord. Led 2,000 wolf soldiers to protect Mr. Guanxing and head to Yunzhong Pass to meet Feng Jixing. You must ensure Mr. Guan's safety along the way. After reaching Yunzhong Pass, don't enter. Mr. Guan only needs to enter the pass. Yes, Big Wolf Lord. Guanxing felt a chill in his heart. What a good Big Wolf Lord. He never made a losing deal. Unfortunately, Big Wolf Lord did not expect that the frontline commander appointed by Feng Jixing would be Zhang Wei. He did not have so many rules. When night fell, the 2,000 wolf soldiers passed through the black forest at high speed. Not far ahead, they saw a dense cluster of torches. From afar, they could even see the fluttering purple Yinhua war flags. It was the Qin army. But it was too late to dodge. The enemy sped up and rushed over like a gust of wind. A general rushed to the front with a long saber in his hand and shouted, it's the wolf soldiers of the northern desert. We have encountered these bastards. Kill them. Was Zhang Wei. Tuoba Lien hurriedly urged his horse forward. He raised his hand and said, General, please wait. I am the envoy sent by Big Wolf Lord to negotiate with His Highness Feng Jixing. This is the envoy, Mr. Guanxing, damn you. Chop them all off. Except for the envoy, kill all the others. Keep the war horses. Zhang Wei's eyes lit up when he saw the elite war horses of the northern desert. The empire lacked war horses. The war horses of the northern desert had good endurance and were fast. It was a gift. How could a mere 2,000 wolf soldiers stand a chance against the imperial army's elite cavalrymen? Dressed in a white robe, Guanxing sat on his horse and stood still as he watched the cavalries rush past him. He didn't even move when Zhang Wei chopped off Tuoba Lien's head with his saber. In fact, the stargazer's heart faintly felt extremely delighted. Chapter 904. 2,000 wolf soldiers were massacred in less than 20 minutes. The ground was littered with corpses and war horses. Many people from the Qin army went to chase after the war horses that had escaped. However, Zhang Wei came up to Guanxing with his blood-stained long saber and said calmly, Envoy, get down from your horse. Guanxing got down from his horse and cupped his fists respectfully. Northern Desert Envoy Guanxing pays my respects to General. Guanxing? Zhang Wei frowned. It sounds like the name of someone from the Empire. Moreover, your accent is also that of someone from Yunzhong Province, isn't it? Yes, Guanxing is from Yunzhong Province. Later on, he was captured by the Northern Desert wolf soldiers who harassed the borders. He then became a guest of the Great Wolf Chieftain and acted as their strategist. I see. Ha! Just then, a bolt of lightning flashed behind them. Zhang Wei and a few other captaincy quickly got down from their horses and knelt down. Greetings, Your Highness Prince Xen. Feng Jixing stepped out from the void space, surrounded by faint energy from the divine walls. With the help of spiritual medicine, he had already broken through and stepped into the divine king realm. His eyes were deep, as if he had seen through everything. He said, Your name is Guanxing? Yes, Guanxing pays his respects to Your Highness Feng Jixing. Guanxing knelt down. Feng Jixing said, Tell me, what does the Great Wolf clan want to do? Negotiate for peace. Negotiate for peace. Feng Jixing could not help but let out a cold laugh. Isn't the Great Wolf Chieftain living a good life by following Fang Lan and Lin Tongtian? Why do you want to negotiate for peace? Your Highness, you might not know this, but the wolf soldiers have only been enslaved by the Longji army. They have not truly pledged their loyalty to the Tianji Empire. The wolf soldiers can only eat the leftovers of others and live in houses that are leaky. Every time there is a war, the wolf soldiers are the cannon fodder that will charge to their deaths at the very front. The great wolf chieftain and Fang Lan appear to be united but are actually at odds. Feng Jixing smiled and said, if that's the case then we can consider negotiating for peace. Tell me, how does Big Wolf Lord want to negotiate? Stargazing said, Big Wolf Master wants to return to the northern desert, but he is under the supervision of the Longji army. So this time he sent us here to negotiate for peace. We are willing to coordinate with your highness and attack the main force of the Longji army from the rear, so that your highness's army can be more powerful. The bargaining chip is that after we destroy the Longji army, your highness must promise us 100,000 wolf soldiers to leave the Cloud Province and return to our hometown. Return to my hometown? Feng Jixing raised his eyebrows. That seems reasonable. Guanxing's face lit up with joy. That's good, but it's a pity that the 2,000 wolf guards were killed by your highness troops. I'm afraid it'll be hard for me to report back. What's so hard about it? Jianghu, immediately send someone to cut off the ears of these wolf soldiers and put them in a sack for Stargazing to bring back. Let Big Wolf Master see the consequences of going against our Qin Empire's army. Tomorrow at noon, the wolf soldiers must attack the rear of the Longji army from the east. Otherwise just wait for my Feng Jixing's army of 200,000 to massacre them. Feng Jixing's words were powerful and resonant. He was not joking but speaking the truth. When dealing with a greedy and cruel ruler like the Big Wolf Master, one must be strong. If one were to be too humble and subservient, then the Big Wolf Master would look down on them. Feng Jixing had been reigning supreme for so many years and could be considered to be very perceptive toward such matters. Not long after, a big sack of ears was placed before Stargazing. There was no way it could contain all of them. Otherwise, even the war horses would not be able to carry it. Stargazing was just a strategist and had never seen such a bloody scene before. He frowned and accepted the gift in return. With a grim countenance, he bowed once again and said, Your Highness Prince Xen, please be at ease. Stargazing will definitely not let you down. Feng Jixing nodded and smiled. When Stargazing led the horse far away, he suddenly said, Mr. Stargazing, do you have any other instructions, Your Highness? Stargazing turned his head in the night. If the Qin army wins this battle, you can follow me and be an advisor to the Imperial Guards. Yes. Stargazing wore a joyful expression and turned to leave. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the night. Jianghu looked puzzled. Your Highness, why does our Imperial Guards need to use such people? This kind of slave who kneels down to foreign races is simply trash. Using such people is a disgrace to our Imperial Guard's reputation. What do you know? Feng Jixing smiled faintly and said, Stargazing is someone who is fearless in the face of danger and speaks with great consideration. He is a meticulous person. From his name, one can tell that this person is very strategic. If there are people who don't use them, how can they be worthy of being one of the 3 kings of Great Qin? There's no need to say more about this. After this battle is over, ensure Stargazing's safety. Stargazing dies, you can forget about living. Jianghu turned pale with fright. Your Highness, are you serious? When have I ever joked? Your Highness, please be at ease. Your subordinate will definitely protect Stargazing's worthless life. Stop talking nonsense. Stop the march and start reorganizing. We'll set off tomorrow morning and attack the southern part of Longji's army. We'll launch a pincer attack with the wolf soldiers and Princess Xi's army, causing Longji's army to be defeated in the north and chase them into the 8 wastelands. Why don't we kill them all but chase them into the 8 wastelands instead? Jianghu was confused again. Feng Jixing felt a little helpless. I can't explain it to you. Your brain is a complete blockhead. If your highness doesn't explain, old Zhang will be a blockhead for the rest of his life. Alright, the first reason is that if we attack them from all sides, Longji's army will definitely fight with their lives on the line. At that time we will at least lose more than half of us. Everyone knows the strength of Longji's army. The second reason is that 8 Wastelands has gone through a few wars and plunder. The farmland has long been barren and the people that were originally ruled by the demon race have lost their homes. Now the entire 8 Wastelands does not even have a single piece of land for planting. Only 1 million people are left from the 8 million population. Where would there be any food to feed an army of 150,000? After Longji's army enters 8 Wastelands, they have no food at all. I want them to starve to death in 8 Wastelands. Third reason, once we... Wait, your highness. Jianghu raised his arm. I can't think straight. Let me digest what you've said first. Feng Jixing looked at him coldly. His face was filled with a fuck you expression. At noon the next day it actually started to rain. After that, it turned into a heavy downpour. The grassland became muddy. After being trampled by the war horses, it became even more muddy. At noon sharp, the 100,000 elites that Feng Jixing commanded launched an attack from the south of Tongyun Pass. They directly attacked the camp of Long Ji's army. In the east, the 100,000 wolf soldiers also made a move. They roared and charged towards their former allies. The wolf soldiers had suffered the disdain of Long Ji's soldiers. Now that their strength had increased, they had to get rid of them as soon as possible. At Tongyun Pass the heavy rain drifted. Below the pavilion, Tang Xiaoxi stood there in her white armor. Her face was still very weak. The rain was too heavy. She could not see clearly at all. However, she could sense the dense aura coming from the south. Furthermore, there was a killing intent coming from the east. The heavy rain was pouring. The sound was too loud. However, as a divine king, she could easily catch the information coming from the air. The battle has started. Tang Xiaoxi's red lips moved a little. What battle has started, Princess Shi? Qin Xiaoli was puzzled. Feng Jixing is already here and there's another army with him. Tang Xiaoxi smiled with clear eyes. The time to turn defeat into victory has arrived. Qin Xiaoli, immediately lead the elites of Tongyun Pass out of the city. Attack the front of Long Ji's army. Ouyang, go and assist them. This time I will not take action personally. I want to wait for your victory in Tongyun Pass. Yes. Tang Xiaoxi looked towards the south. There was indeed a wisp of aura belonging to Feng Jixing. Feng Jixing did not even send a letter. He was probably afraid that the letter would be intercepted by the dragon riders. It seemed that Feng Jixing was also a gambler. He was betting that he could guess the whereabouts of the imperial army. He was betting on the tacit understanding between the Qin army. And from the looks of it, his bet was right. The doors opened one after another. Rows of armored cavalry rushed out under the cover of the rain. The army led by Qin Xiaoli went straight to the enemy's main force. The rain became even heavier. Tang Xiaoxi slowly sat down on the chair and looked at the curtain of rain in the distance. The cool breeze blew the rain onto her snow-white face. She couldn't help but slowly close her eyes and murmur, "We must win. The Empire can't afford any more failures." The sounds of killing came from all directions. The surroundings of Long Ji's army camp were in chaos. Fang Lan held onto his sword and mounted his horse. His face was ashen. What is going on? Who is attacking in the rain? Feng Jixing's troops are attacking from the south. Lin Tongtian said. They are attacking from afar. They attack when they come. They do not care about the taboo of the art of war. Feng Jixing is really a weirdo. Where is the east? Why are there sounds of killing? An assistant general said. Reporting to commander. The wolf soldiers are rebelling. They ate all the rations this morning. Not long ago they attacked our formation with archers. Mao Dan. Fang Lan roared. You fickle bastard. I Fang Lan swear to tear you into pieces. Lin Tongtian rode on the huge dragon and said calmly, Commander, I think it's better to give the order. What should we do now? Once the guards in Tongyun Pass receive the news, they will also launch an attack. We will be attacked from 3 sides and by then it will be too late to escape. Head north. We will take Muyu City. As long as we enter Muyu City, we will definitely be able to defend against them. Fang Lan's eyes were bloodshot. Sir Lin Tongtian, Assistant Commander Duo La, please lead your troops to attack. Open a path for our army. Yes. Lin Tongtian cupped his fists. But Duo La was unwilling. The scene in front of her was something she did not want to see. She had already placed her bet on the Tianji Empire. If Long Ji's army was defeated, she would lose too. How could she return to the Western Divine Realm to see Claude? The dug spear in her hand shone. Duo La looked at Tongyun Pass from afar. A trace of fear flashed past her eyes. Tang Xiaoxi was the only one who could make her feel threatened. However, Dora didn't know that Tang Xiaoxi was as weak as a mortal right now. Otherwise, she would have made another decision. Chapter 905. After 1 day and 1 night, the heavy rain stopped. Long Ji's camp had been badly mutilated and was in a mess. There were corpses everywhere and fresh blood mixed with the rain, emitting a strong stench of blood. Long Ji's battle flags were all over the place. The pursuit had yet to stop. Luo Yu, Qin Yong, and the others had already led the cavalry to the Muyu City's passageway to intercept them. God seemed to be unable to change anything in this battle. Even though Lin Tongtian, Dora, and the other God State experts had also participated in the battle, they had only killed a few thousand soldiers. They were unable to change the overall situation of the battle. Your Highness, I found it. A soldier held up a commander's flag with the word Feng embroidered on it and said, "This is their commander's flag." Feng Jixing raised his hand to take the flag and could not help but smile faintly. They fled in such a hurry that they didn't even want the commander's flag. Other than having a strong military force, the Tianji Empire's commander is really useless. At the side, Qin Xiaoli smiled and said, "Your Highness, Prince Xen is really good at commanding." Feng Jixing took a look at him and said, "Qin Xiaoli, you've improved a lot over the years. It can be seen from the few battles at Cloud Pass. Once the Empire recovers, your military position will probably be promoted again. I'll congratulate you first." "Thank you for your guidance, Your Highness." Qin Xiaoli cupped his fists and bowed. He knew very well that if it was not for Feng Jixing's massacre of the Seven Seas Province's generals, he would not have had the chance to make a name for himself, let alone become the commander of a wealthy province like the Seven Seas Province. Just then an army galloped over from not far away. It was the Wolf Army. Great Wolf Lord Maodun, Second Wolf Lord Guanxing, and the others had all arrived. Before they could even start fighting, they got off their horses. Great Wolf Lord knelt down, not caring about the mud on the ground. "Great Wolf Lord Maodun of the Northern Desert greets Your Highness Prince Xen." "Get up, Great Wolf Lord." Feng Jixing got off his horse and personally helped Great Wolf Lord up. He smiled and said, "It's all thanks to Great Wolf Lord attacking from both sides. Otherwise, the Longji Empire probably wouldn't have been defeated so easily. It's me, Feng Jixing, who should thank Great Wolf Lord for forsaking the darkness in time and walking on the right path." Maoduan's expression was a little ugly as he said awkwardly, "Thank you for your understanding, Your Highness." Second Wolf Lord coughed softly as if reminding them of something. Big Wolf Master hurriedly said, "Your Highness, we have won this battle. 6 out of 10 soldiers of the Longji army are gone. The wolf soldiers have completed their mission. So, I want to lead the wolf soldiers back to our hometown, back to the Northern Desert." "Back to the Northern Desert?" Feng Jixing smiled and said, "There's no need to rush. Dora, Fanglan, and the others from the Longji Corps are cunning. Now that the situation has not been completely settled, Great Qin still needs to rely on the power of the wolf soldiers to fight against the Tianji Empire. Why don't Great Wolf Lord come with me to attack Muyu City? The rations in Muyu City will be enough to feed the wolf soldiers. Once we have completely defeated the Longji Corps, I will personally send the wolf soldiers back to their hometown." Mao Dun faltered. What's this and that? How many wolf soldiers did we lose in this battle?" "More than 32,000 died and more than 40,000 were injured. You see, with so many injured wolf soldiers, how can we let them continue to travel such a long distance? Let's do as I say. Let the wolf soldiers stay. The medical officer of the elixir department of the Qin army will treat their wounds. Rest and reorganize. Tomorrow morning we will go to Muyu City and continue to kill the remaining soldiers of the Longji Corps." Feng Jixing's words left no room for discussion. Although he had a smile on his face, his killing intent was hidden. The wolf soldiers were known for their ferocity and violence, but there were very few cultivators among them. They only had strong physiques, and a divine king like Feng Jixing was simply a threat to them. How would the Great Wolf Lord dare to disobey? He could only nod and say, "Yes, this subordinate understands. Your Highness, we shall take our leave first." "Good. Someone send the rations to the wolf soldiers. Send the best elixir department chefs to make delicious food for Big Wolf Master." "Yes." "Wait, Big Wolf Master. Is there anything else, Your Highness?" Big Wolf Master was stunned. "I want someone from you." "Who?" "Stargazing." "Ah." Big Wolf Master was slightly startled. "Why can't I?" Feng Jixing asked with a smile. No, you can. Mao Dun looked at Stargazing and said, "Mr. Stargazing, then, you will stay by Her Highness' side. I hope you will not forget the kindness of the wolf tribe." "Yes." Stargazing nodded. After Big Wolf Master and the others left, Stargazing said, "Your Highness, what are you doing?" Feng Jixing said lightly, "Stargazing, you are a Qin citizen. Today I will give you a chance to serve the Qin Empire. Are you willing to stay by my side and fight for the Qin Empire, and for Her Highness Qinin?" Stargazing was trembling. He had calculated everything, but he did not expect this. "Are you willing?" Feng Jixing asked again. I am willing." Stargazing knelt on both knees. His elegant white robes were stained with muddy water, but he still knelt there, refusing to get up. As ordered, Stargazing is promoted to a rank 4 commandant and will be the Imperial Army's top advisor. Whenever the Imperial Army uses troops, Mr. Stargazing must participate in the planning. It's decided. Jianghu, you'll be in charge of Mr. Star's clothes and accommodation. After saying that, Feng Jixing spurred his horse and left, heading straight for Cloud Passing Pass. He was going to pay Tang Xiaoxi a visit. Stargazing knelt on the ground, trembling all over as if he had been given a new life. He was a smart person and knew that it was necessary to buy people's hearts. However, to think that Feng Jixing had allowed him to participate in the planning of all military operations when he had just joined the Imperial Army, making him one of the brains of the Imperial Army. This was not buying people's hearts but relying heavily on him. Watching as Feng Jixing's horse hooves splashed up the muddy water, Stargazing lifted his head, tears gushing out as he mumbled, "From today onward, Stargazing's life will belong to Prince Exen." Swoosh! His collar was grabbed by someone, and Jianghu tossed him onto the back of a horse as if he was carrying a little chick. "Stop grumbling. You're a man, but aren't you being pretentious? I'm about to vomit because of you. Come with me. I'll prepare a set of Imperial Army attire for you. I feel like hitting someone just by looking at your wolf soldier's scholarly attire. Quickly take it off while I can still hold it in and not hit you." Stargazing was stunned for a moment. However, when he saw how uncouth Jianghu was, he did not feel angry. Instead, he felt a little touched. At Cloud Passing Pass, Feng Jixing and Qin Xiaoli walked up the city gates side by side to pay their respects to Tang Xiaoxi. "Get up." Tang Xiaoxi smiled and stood up, saying, "General Feng, tell me quickly. Have we won?" "Yes, Princess." Feng Jixing laughed out loud. "It's not just a victory. It's a great victory. The Longji army has lost close to 70,000 to 80,000 men, and 5 Dragon Knights have also been killed. Other than that, the troops that the Longji army gathered from the various prefectures in the Cloud Province have also been dispersed or incorporated. Princess, don't worry. The Cloud Province will definitely return to the Qin clan's hands in less than half a month." "Good, that's good. Who did you send to go after them?" "Luo Yu and Qin Yong." "Good. It's good that you didn't send Zhang Wei. The Longji army strength still exists. In addition to Duo La Lin Tong Tian and the others, they can't be underestimated." "Yes, I understand. Here, I've received 14 letters to rescue the Emperor." "Rescue the Emperor?" Tang Xiaoxi placed a stack of letters in front of him and said, "When the main force of the empire was unable to resist the Tianji Empire, the prefectures of the various prefectures recruited their own troops. Now they've all risen in revolt. Take a look for yourself." Feng Jixing flipped through the letters and smiled. "From 500 to 10,000 people. The prefectures of the various prefectures have really put in a lot of effort. However, I'm very surprised that these people have openly killed the defending generals and troops of the Tianji Empire. It's good that they're here. It saves us the trouble of recovering the cities one by one." "Yes." Tang Xiaoxi smiled leisurely and said, "However, we still have to be on guard. It's true that these feudal vassals are going against the Tianji Empire, but they'll also become a big problem for us. Once they gather their troops and become self-confident, it won't be so easy for us to subdue them. After all, the Empire's army has suffered heavy losses and is unable to fight another civil war." I know. I'll pay close attention. Princess Shi, I'm going to organize the army to recover the Cloud Province soon. Are you coming with me? "No, I'm going to Cloud Pass." Tang Xiaoxi looked towards the southeast and said, "Recently, I haven't been able to sleep well at night. I keep feeling that something will happen to Mu. I have to make a trip there. Only when I see him can I feel at ease." I understand. Leave the matters of Cloud Province to me, Feng Jixing. "All right, I'll set off in the afternoon. Please take care, General Feng. The northern border of the Empire will be handed over to you." "Yes." In the southern ridge, the flames of war burned from Tiger Subdue Pass all the way to the central part of Mount White Mang. At the foot of the mountain about 5 miles away from Dragon Slaying Pass, flames soared into the sky. Another bloody battle had taken place. The Longdan army camp had almost exhausted the last of their magic crystal crossbows. Finally, they had carved out a bloody path from the Blackstone Empire's army camp and headed straight for Dragon Slaying Pass. The number of people fighting was getting fewer and fewer. After 3 consecutive days of fighting, Lin Muyu's troops had already fallen from 50,000 to less than 30,000. However, these 30,000 people were like a single spark that would eventually set the prairie ablaze. Therefore, Lin Muyu didn't want to give up on them. However, the moment everyone rushed out of the dense forest of Mount White Mang, they were stunned. In front of them, the Ashen Flame Army and the Sea and Mountain Army were densely packed. There were no less than 150,000 people. Moreover, divine power was enshrouding them. Needless to say, Bailey Qin Hanshu and the others were all there. They had already made up their minds to block the exit of Dragon Slaying Pass, so that Lin Muyu's men wouldn't be able to enter Dragon Slaying Pass. What should we do? Is the heavens going to kill our Longdan army camp? Wei Chao's voice was slightly trembling. Our brothers haven't produced anything for a day. If we don't resupply soon, I'm afraid we won't even have the strength to charge. Zhen Yifan and Su Yu remained silent. The cleverest housewife couldn't cook without rice. At this moment, the 30,000 people had already reached the end of their rope. Clang. Lin Muyu pulled out the Ice Origin sword and said indifferently, "Listen to me. Follow the walls of Dragon Slaying Pass and kill our way in. The Empire's army on the walls will naturally use the magic crystal cannons and arrows to cover us. Let's take as many as we can. It's better than being completely annihilated." Yes. Chapter 906. Heavy shield bearers form a shield wall. Below the city, the shield bearers and the shield bearers spread out, forming a human shield wall to block the Blackstone Empire's attack. Meanwhile, Zhen Yifan, Su Yu and the others led the army forward. In the distance, the gate of Dragon Slaying Pass slowly opened. Su Jintao stood on the city wall, sword in hand, face full of anxiety, and said, "Hurry, enter the city, hurry." Flames erupted from the east side of the city wall. It was the stone torch chariots, the Pale Flame Army stone torch chariots. Countless stone torches smashed onto the shield wall, instantly killing and injuring thousands of people. At this rate, by the time all 30,000 people entered the city, there wouldn't be many left in the Longdan army camp. They had to fight for more time. "Wei Chou, lead the Imperial Guard camp and follow me." Lin Muyu pulled out the Ice Origin sword and shouted, "Yes, Your Highness. Imperial Guard camp, follow me." The Imperial Guard camp of the Dragon's Imperial Guard camp only had 500 people. They were made up of Lin Muyu and Wei Chao's personal bodyguards, led by Bai Yin. Although they were few in number, their strength was not much inferior to the Royal Guard. The 500 Imperial Guard camp were all cavalrymen. They waved their sharp swords and followed Lin Muyu and Wei Chou as they charged towards the Pale Flame Army and Sea Mountain Army formation about 200 meters away. At this time, the Pale Flame Army and Sea Mountain Army were also slowly approaching. Their shields were raised and their spears protruded. Moreover, the shields had 3 layers at the front and 3 at the back, and the spears were like a forest. They were specially used to deal with cavalry charges. Once Lin Muyu's Imperial Guard camp charged, there wouldn't be many of them left. Archers shoot together. In the crowd, Fu Yu raised his long blade and shouted, "Let that bastard Lin Muyu have a taste of the power of the Demon Heart Arrow." Shoot. In the next moment, arrows came raining down. Lin Muyu, who was riding her horse forward, already understood. She lightly shook her arm and shouted, "Heaven and earth, listen to my command. Ride the wind." Borrowing the momentum of the wind, a strong gust of wind swept across the sky and blew the arrows away. By the time they landed on the armor of the soldiers in the Longdan army camp, they did not have much strength left. They did not even have enough strength to penetrate the skin. Kill. The Ice Origin sword swept out with profound energy from the chaotic light of the common and swiftly tore apart the shield formation and spear formation. In order to cover the retreat of the rest of the people, the 500 guards charged into the enemy formation of hundreds of thousands of people like moths to a flame. They were filled with the passion of a brave warrior who was ready to die. Is that Lin Muyu? On the watchtower of the Zhanlong Pass, Xin stood there in her angelic robe. Her eyes were closed, but she could feel the sharpness of Lin Muyu's aura through her spiritual sense. That was an unruly aura. Even when facing an enemy several times stronger than her, she was not afraid at all. It was as if she had gathered the iron bones of the Qin family's army. Terelin's eyes were blurred as she said faintly, "It is just like the legends say. Lin Muyu, he is a little different from what I imagined." "How is he a little different?" Xin asked. "He's King Qin, the paragon of the Shattered Cauldron realm, but he's the one leading the charge. He's also very strong, very strong. It's hard to imagine that a god from the lower realm would have such power. However, charging into the formation of Bailey Qin Hanshu and the others is like throwing an egg against a rock. Once Bailey Qin attacks, Lin Muyu will end up like a moth flying into a flame." Lake, who was at the side, also nodded. "Yes, that kid is crazy. With such a huge disparity in power, he actually took the initiative to attack." Su Jintao held his sword and gritted his teeth. His Highness Yu is just covering the retreat of the rest of the army into the city. Lord Xin, we can't just sit back and do nothing. I am His Highness Yu's subordinate. If I watch him die on the battlefield like this, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Even if I die, I want to die on the road to kill the enemy with him. Lord Xin, please allow me to lead the army out of the city and fight. What time is it now? Xin asked. There are still 2 hours until noon. Xiang Yu and Ding Shi's troops are not in position yet. We must continue to wait. Xin's long eyelashes trembled slightly and she said, You all say that he is my lover, but why do I not feel it at all? I don't want to accept a lover that was forced upon me by others. But Lord, Su Jiantao, don't say any more. Let's wait and see what happens. Terralyn clenched her fists and said, I don't think Lin Muyu will die so easily, right? Ah. Su Jiantao gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice, Wang Feng Zhou Qin, immediately gather our troops in the city. Prepare to fight our way out of the city at my command. The torches and arrows mixed together and smashed into the crowd, injuring the close guard battalion but also injuring the front of the Blue Flame army. Lin Muyu and the rest broke through the enemy's formation like a hot knife through butter, and headed straight for the main camp. Are they going to attack our command camp? Fu Yu narrowed his eyes. Bailey Qin's gaze was icy cold as he said, Let him come. I also want to see how powerful Lin Muyu, who is said to possess the Supreme Being Godhead, is. Today either he dies or we die. If he isn't as powerful as the rumors say, he doesn't deserve to possess the Supreme Being Godhead. Han Shu laughed coldly, Marshal is right. Right at this moment, 2 dragon riders descended from the sky and swung their swords, releasing sword chi as they shouted, How dare you attack the main camp? You are courting death. However, the sword chi was repelled before it could land. It was a huge golden gourd wall, and it was Lin Muyu's martial soul skill. The Ice Origin sword danced in the air and a powerful sword chi was released. It was like a divine weapon as it slashed towards the main camp's war chariot. As long as no one blocked it, this sword chi was enough to tear the entire war chariot apart. Interesting. Bailey Qin laughed heartily. Suddenly, a bright light burst out from his body, and his entire body seemed to grow larger. He punched out and forcefully shattered Lin Muyu's sword chi. The wind from his punch didn't seem to be obstructed at all, and it directly struck the wall of Lin Muyu's gourd wall. Pu piu piu, sounds of shattering could be heard. Other than Wei Chou and Bai Yin, the dozens of personal guard battalion soldiers around Lin Muyu were all turned into a mist of blood. They were killed just like that. With just one punch, Bailey Qin stopped the personal guard battalion from advancing any further. Countless Blue Flame army soldiers brandished their weapons, and they surrounded Lin Muyu and the others. Stepping on a cloud, Bailey Qin proudly walked over and said with a cold gaze, Lin Muyu, you are too arrogant. You brought these people to attack my battle formation. Are you looking down on me, Bailey Qin? When faced with the overbearing gaze of an 87th level heavenly abode divine emperor, Lin Muyu didn't show any fear as she roared with laughter, and then she pointed her Ice Origin sword at Bailey Qin and said, Your Darkstone Empire relied on your formidable martial strength to seize my city and slaughter my commoners. All of you have so many Saint Martial Exalts, Saint Martial Kings and Saint Martial Gods, but in my eyes, all of you are just a bunch of cowardly trash. Do you really want to die? Bailey Qin sneered and said, It's not a good thing for you to provoke me. Lin Muyu's gaze shifted to the side. She glanced at the retreating speed of Su Yu, Zhen Yifan, and the others, and she couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. They were too slow. They would need at least an hour to reach their destination. Thus, she clenched her teeth and braced herself to say, Marshal Bailey Qin, my people are already exhausted. They can't fight against your Blackstone Empire's army. If you really have the dignity and pride of a soldier, do you dare to fight against me? Fight against you? Bailey Qin laughed out loud. You clearly know that my Blackstone Empire has more than one sacred martial god and sacred martial king, but you still want to fight against us? I know that you, Lin Muyu, want to buy time and cover your people's retreat, but you are underestimating my Blackstone Empire too much. Do you think you and your people can fight against our generals? We will only know after we fight. Alright, I promise you. Bailey Qin's eyes were filled with disdain. He had long regarded Lin Muyu as a turtle in a jar. He waved his hand and said, Pass down my order. Stop the attack and get into formation. Prepare for a fight against us. Yes. The dense sound of the war drums thundered. Instantly, the Blue Flame army dispersed. Those who were attacking the Longdan army camp also dispersed. Bailey Qin's words were the highest military order. No one dared to disobey him. Wei Chou looked a little confused. He said, "Your Highness, you said you want to fight against us, but how can our people have a general who can fight one-on-one? I'm afraid I won't be able to last more than a few rounds against a divine king. For someone like Baiyin, any dragon knight can kill him in 3 moves." Baiyin grimaced. He actually didn't know how to reply. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "It's all right. I will deal with them alone. I will buy as much time as I can. Pass down my order. Beat the drums and get into formation." Yes. The sound of the Dragon Courage Camp's war drums resounded out abruptly as the Dragon Courage Camp's heavy cavalry swiftly formed into a straight line formation. The war drums rumbled as they cheered for their commander, whereas the Darkstone Empire's side did the same as well. Both sides faced each other in a circle and were ready to jump at each other's throats, and it seemed as if a great battle would break out at any moment. "What are they doing?" On the city walls, Sheen asked in surprise. Terralyn and Lake were only gods from the upper realm. They had never seen a battle like this, much less experienced a battle like this. They all shook their heads in confusion. No one knew what was going on. Only Su Jiantao said in a low voice, "A fight against them. They want their generals to fight each other." Sheen frowned. How is this possible? Bailey Qin is so strong. No one in the Qin army camp can fight against him. Su Jiantao's eyes flashed with excitement and helplessness. He said, "His Highness Yu wants to personally go into battle to buy time for the exhausted soldiers to enter the city. No, I can't wait any longer. If I watch him die in front of me, I would rather leave the city and fight to the death." As he said this, Su Jiantao was about to leave. "Wait." Sheen suddenly opened her hand and said, "Bring me the horse. I will leave the city with you." She could faintly feel fear in the depths of her heart. She was afraid to see the scene that appeared in her dream. Chapter 907. Bailey Qin, Han Shu, Fu Yu, and the rest rode their horses out of the battle formation. When they came to the front of the formation, Bailey Qin narrowed his eyes and laughed. "The Qin army is indeed interesting. They are treating war as a game. They actually want to fight against us. Since they don't want to live, we don't have to be merciful. Come, which general wants to fight the first battle?" In the crowd, all the generals were silent. They were all very quiet because they were afraid to meet the strongest of the enemy, Lin Muyu. Now, everyone knew that Lin Muyu might have already stepped into the Holy King realm. If they were to meet a Holy King realm expert, most of them would only be sending themselves to their deaths. Could it be that my Blackstone Empire doesn't have anyone who dares to fight? Bailey Qin asked angrily. After all, he was the marshal. If he were to fight the first battle, it would be a loss of grace. At this moment, a dragon knight riding on a red dragon slowly descended. The dragon spear in his hand flickered with faint lightning as he said, "Marshal, Sun Yulong is willing to go." "Oh, it's you?" Bailey Qin smiled faintly. "The Qin army has many capable people. Sun Yulong, although you are already at the 28 Heavenly Abode realm, you still have to be careful. If you can't win, immediately retreat. I will save your life." "Yes, thank you for your concern, Marshal. But there's no need." Sun Yulong laughed coldly. "I don't believe that there is anyone in the Qin army who can be my opponent. Let me go and kill one of them first." "Go." The dragon roared. Sun Yulong pulled the reins and lifted the dragon up. He pointed the dragon spear at the Qin army and said, "My name is Sun Yulong. Who dares to fight me?" In front of the Longdan army camp, Lin Muyu stepped on the ground and flew slowly in the air. She smiled and said, Let me. Lin Muyu." Sun Yulong was slightly startled. He never imagined that Lin Muyu would be the first to fight. Lin Muyu's attack just now had already made Sun Yulong feel extremely threatened. Now that he was up against her, it was hard to get off. Fortunately, Sun Yulong detected that Lin Muyu's aura was not that strong. She seemed to be his only hope. "Come on." Lightning swirled around the dragon spear. Sun Yulong cultivated in the power of the law of lightning, and could be considered an outstanding martial saint of the Blackstone Empire. It was precisely because of this that Bailey Qin wanted Sun Yulong to give it his all. Clap, clap. The lightning flickered even more. Sun Yulong roared and became one with the dragon. He left his original trajectory and rushed over like a bolt of lightning. It was as if he was violating the laws of physics. In fact, this was indeed the case. True divine power was an attack that violated the laws of physics. However, Sun Yulong's speed was too slow in Lin Muyu's eyes. It was as if he was moving in slow motion. He had 10,000 ways to avoid his attack, but he didn't. Buzz. The dragon blood battle shield appeared and blocked the sharp dragon spear with a bang. Lin Muyu's body was slightly startled, and he retreated a little, revealing a hint of not being able to endure. Sun Yulong couldn't help but laugh loudly. "You're only a so-so. Watch my chain lightning attacks." The dragon spear trembled violently. Sun Yulong's series of attacks flew out, and a series of ping 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 sounds could be heard. Lin Muyu either used the 7 Luminaries fairy gourd to block, or used the falling star steps to dodge. After attacking like this for 5 minutes, Sun Yulong actually couldn't find a single opening. However, the Ashen Flame Army and Sea Mountain Army soldiers behind him, who didn't know what was going on, began to cheer. The way they saw it, Sun Yulong had already gained the upper hand. His opponent's highness didn't even have the strength to fight back. For a moment, Sun Yulong felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles. After a series of fierce attacks, he had used up nearly half of his divine power. On the other hand, Lin Muyu's divine power hadn't been damaged in the slightest. "What are you trying to do?" Sun Yulong gritted his teeth and said, "You coward. Do you only know how to dodge and not fight?" Lin Muyu was calculating how many people had already entered the pass, but it seemed like she couldn't delay any longer. Her Ice Origin sword trembled slightly as she said, "Then I'll attack. Don't regret it. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Come." With a whoosh, Lin Muyu disappeared from where she was. In the next instant, she appeared on top of Sun Yulong's Crimson Dragon, and her sword descended like lightning. Gotcha. The sword sliced through Sun Yulong's opponent's throat. Blood gushed out, and Sun Yulong didn't even have time to say a word before he was killed. It was too fast. This was the first time he had seen a god shatter the void so quickly, and it was also the last time he would see it. "Woo!" The Crimson Dragon howled, but Lin Muyu grabbed its reins and steered it back to Weiqiu. A dragon mount was a rare resource. How could it be wasted? In the end, only Sun Yulong's corpse remained on the yellow sand. A mighty dragon knight of the Blackstone Empire had been killed by his opponent's first attack. Motherf asterisk cur preposterous. Fu Yu roared angrily, "This Lin Muyu is too much. I'll go deal with him." The saber in his hand flickered with a fiery light. Fu Yu instantly activated his ability to shatter the void, and with a whoosh, he appeared above Lin Muyu's head. Without any explanation, he slashed out with his saber and roared, "Hand over your life." "Wait a moment, Fu Yu." Bailey Qin hurriedly roared, but it was too late. He gritted his teeth and said, "Idiot, you bastard. It seems like you are no longer qualified to be the commander of the Grey Flame Army." Bus. Raging flames descended from the sky. It was Fu Yu's attack. Lin Muyu had just handed the Crimson Dragon over to Weiqiu when she sensed the threat behind her head. She immediately turned around and pushed out with her sword. Clang. The two powerful forces collided. Lin Muyu was only slightly stunned, but Fu Yu was sent tumbling in the air, pathetically coming to a stop. He was only a Saint Martial Venerable. How could he be a match for Lin Muyu in a clash of strength? Stepping on the ground, Lin Muyu slowly flew up. Her gaze was indifferent as she said, "Who are you?" Fu Yu laughed coldly and said, "Your grandfather is the commander of the Grey Flame Army, Fu Yu." Lin Muyu frowned. "You're the Fu Yu who bathed Linghan City in blood, the Fu Yu who destroyed Long Qianlin's body on the dragon-shaped island." "That's right. I'm your grandfather." Fu Yu's voice was ferocious and violent. But this time he had found the wrong person. Lin Muyu's lips curled up and she actually smiled. "Long Qianlin was my mortal enemy, but he was also my best friend. You killed my mortal enemy to avenge me, so I should thank you. But you killed my best friend, so I should kill you to avenge me. So we're even. But you slaughtered the people of Lingnan. There's no way to settle this score. I can only use your life to pay for it." "What did you say, idiot?" Fu Yu roared furiously. The law of fire in his body surged, and he almost used all of his divine power. His long saber was burning red. He roared, "I can kill you with one slash." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu smiled. She suddenly raised her sword high, and with a swoosh, the blade shot out a golden sword ray that was dozens of meters long. It was the 7 Luminaries Celestial Sword's martial soul. At the same time, scorching energy began to surge, and there seemed to be a purple sun on the blade. It was the Star Arts Purple Sun Strike. Against someone like Fu Yu, one strike was enough. Honk. When Lin Muyu slashed out with her sword, Fu Yu's divine power dissipated before it could even collide. He opened his mouth in confusion. He didn't expect the motley crew of the Qin army to have such a strong commander. But it was too late for regrets. What awaited him was death. Disappear. Lin Muyu bellowed. With a wave of his sword, all that was left in the air was a pile of ashes. The commander of the Blue Flame Army was reduced to ashes just like that. The soldiers in the Longdan Army camp cheered loudly. Lin Muyu had killed 2 people in a row. She had brought glory to the Qin army. Idiot. Bailey Qin clenched his teeth and said, "Does Fuyu really think he's invincible? He's courting death. He can't blame anyone else." As he spoke, he opened his palms slightly, and his divine power gathered into a crimson long sword. He had decided to take action personally. "Wait a moment, Marshal." At the side, the deputy commander of the Black Stone Dragon Riders, Han Shu, said calmly, "You are the marshal of the 3 armies. There's no need to use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. I just sensed that Lin Muyu has a total of 48 auras. Please leave it to me. I will take care of this Qin Emperor." "Lord Han Shu, are you confident?" Bailey Qin asked. Han Shu smiled and said, "I have 100% chance of winning." "Good. Beat the drums and cheer for Lord Han Shu." The war drums sounded, and a crimson-red Han Shu flew into the sky on a huge dragon. He looked down at Lin Muyu and said, "Brat, we meet again." Lin Muyu naturally recognized Han Shu. The last time they fought, she, Tang Xiaoxi, and Feng Jixing didn't gain any advantage over Han Shu. But this time it was different. She had broken through the recovery period and obtained the power of the invisible elephant art. She was no longer the same as before. "Come." He flew into the sky and stood at the same level as Han Shu. He slowly sheathed the Ice Origin sword. Han Shu's fists were his weapons, and Lin Muyu felt that it was better to use his fists to shatter Han Shu's confidence. Streams of divine power flowed and Han Shu laughed loudly. The sky-shattering fist was thrown out at lightning speed. Lin Muyu's body slowly turned back. Her right fist was filled with the 7 planets' profound energy and the 5 elements' 8 wastelands' destruction. She punched out. Bang. The 7 planets' profound energy and the power of the space law were reduced to dust. The opponent's punch was so powerful that Lin Muyu was sent flying back 100 meters. It took a lot of effort for her to stop. Han Shu, however, stood proudly in his original position. After all, there was a difference of 10 levels of Grotto Heaven. This difference in strength could not be made up for. Moreover, the 7 planets' profound energy did not belong to any law, and Han Shu used the space law that he was most proficient in. "Is that all you've got?" Han Shu chuckled. Chapter 908. Han Shu was as tyrannical as ever. Each of his punches seemed to be able to shatter space, cut off the opponent's power and cut off sound and vision. As a result, when Han Shu punched out, Lin Muyu felt her surroundings crack and become chaotic. She couldn't maintain her senses at all. "Take it. Let's see how many punches you can take." Han Shu waved his iron fists in the air, and his fist energy rained down, heavily bombarding Lin Muyu's Dragon Blood Battle Shield and Divine Wall. He laughed and roared, "My heaven-shattering fist uses spatial divine power as its source, and the power of the planes is constantly stacking. The power of each punch is stronger than the last. I want to see how many punches you can take." Bang, 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 only the light patterns of spatial cracks and the deafening sounds could be heard in the air. But no matter how Han Shu attacked, Lin Muyu didn't fight back. Instead, she maintained a defensive posture. Not only did she use the Dragon Blood Battle Shield, but she also used the power of the Diamond Body. Her whole body was as indestructible as a boulder. "It's the 37th punch." Terralyn stood in the air next to Sheen and said indifferently, "Han Shu's power has accumulated to a very terrifying level. Right now, any of his punches can shatter a mountain. This is no joke. If Lin Muyu continues to defend passively, his internal organs will be shattered sooner or later. He's underestimating the heaven-shattering fist too much." "It's not underestimating. It's the heaven-shattering fist and Han Shu's power." Sheen's eyelashes trembled slightly. Although his power is strong, it's not above Han Shu's. But if he uses defense to exhaust Han Shu's spirit and power, his chance will come. "Oh, is that so?" Lake was also surprised. Clearly Han Shu and Lin Muyu were both stronger than him. Even though Lake was a battle angel, he had to view this duel with respect. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp frowned as they watched the battle in the sky. They could only see the shadows of humans and dragons colliding with each other. The punches and the trails of the dragon flames were shocking. However, none of the soldiers of the Longdan army camp retreated because they knew that the person who was fighting with the powerful enemy in the sky was Lin Muyu, the Prince of Qin of the Empire and the real commander of the Longdan army camp. Even he was fighting with his life on the line. How could they cower in fear? Your Highness, Wei Chou swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He began to worry about Lin Muyu's safety. Situ Sin quietly sat on the dragon's back, ready to attack at any time. At the back of the Longdan army camp, the gates of Zhanlong Pass opened. Zhen Yifan and Suer's troops entered the city to take refuge, while a large number of infantry and cavalry left the city at the other exits. Su Jintao was quietly preparing a counterattack. Su Jintao originally had 30,000 troops under his command. Adding the garrison of Lingnan province, he controlled close to 100,000 troops. In addition to the 10,000 soldiers of the Longdan army camp, it was enough to challenge the Blackstone Empire's army outside the city. Moreover, there was also the 25,000 well-equipped Xin Corps. At this moment, the situation on the battlefield suddenly changed. Everyone could only see a figure flying in the air, accompanied by Lin Muyu's low shout, "Heaven and earth, heed my command." Then they saw Lin Muyu holding a frosty fist in her hand, colliding heavily with Han Shu's fist. Ping! The earth trembled and the sound of the two fists colliding was deafening. This time Han Shu's attack was interrupted, and his fist trembled as he retreated tens of meters. He stared at Lin Muyu dumbfounded. This time Lin Muyu's strength seemed to have undergone a complete transformation. Not only did she have the cold power of ice, but she also had the aura of a mountain. The formless elephant art combined with the astral arts was just that strong. Lin Muyu's figure suddenly changed, and she used the falling star steps in midair. Her entire fighting aura had completely changed. Relying on the advantage of her body being more agile than Han Shu's, who was riding on a dragon, she suddenly blasted out a fist from 3 different angles that contained the power of ice. Pung pung pung. The situation reversed. This time it was Han Shu who was defending while Lin Muyu took the initiative to attack. Sizzle, sizzle, Han Shu complained incessantly. God knows where Lin Muyu's strength came from. Every punch seemed to be plated with a layer of steel. At the same time, a layer of frost had already begun to spread on Han Shu's wrist, and even his nerves were starting to feel numb. If this continued, he might not be able to use the sky-shattering fist anymore. Therefore, Han Shu had to use a portion of his divine power to melt the frost. Beads of sweat began to drip from his forehead. Ping, ping, ping. Lin Muyu's attacks became relentless, to the point that the spectators with lower cultivation could no longer see his figure. All they could see were streaks of frost blooming in the air. Finally, with a buzz, a golden light bloomed and the air shrieked. Lin Muyu raised his hands, and a resplendent elephant wheel was formed, and it went straight for Han Shu. Wishful thinking. Han Shu roared and his fist swept out. The tyrannical sky-shattering fist shook the elephant wheel away, but at the same time he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. A dignified divine king of the 58th Heaven Grotto Heaven was actually beaten to the point of bleeding. Lord Han Shu. A group of dragon knights rode on their giant dragons and approached. Many of them had already raised their dragon spears and were ready to rush to Han Shu's aid. Scram! Lin Muyu suddenly raised his head and looked at the group of dragon knights. The power of the formless elephant was contained in his voice, and a wave of divine power formed a powerful gale that locked the group of dragon knights in place. Everyone was dumbfounded. No one had thought that the legendary King Qin would be this powerful. They even felt a trace of despair. Don't come over. Han Shu waved his hand behind him and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He said, "This battle is my destiny as well as the destiny of the Black Rock Dragon Knights. Even if I die in battle, no one can break the rules of the Battle of Generals." Lin Muyu's gaze was indifferent. "Since that's the case, prepare yourself. Come." Han Shu raised his head as if he was facing death with equanimity. "Lin Muyu, don't push your luck." In the distance, Bailey Qin roared. The sword in his hand was already trembling and humming. But Bailey Qin was too late. He was at least 300 meters away from the battlefield, and the area around him was filled with a strange force field. He was unable to break through space. Needless to say, that was the effect of Lin Muyu's formless elephant's domain. The surrounding air surged towards him. Lin Muyu swung his right fist backwards. His entire body was like a taut bow, and blue energy gathered on his fist. Han Shu's voice was trembling. The prelude to Lin Muyu's attack had already made him tremble. 100 Fists of Destruction. Han Shu unleashed his strongest move, his body exploding madly towards the sky. But Lin Muyu's attack landed at the same time. The 6 planets' tribulation. Boom. The light from the 6 planets kept attacking, like a baptism from the gods. Moreover, there were also elephant wheels within the light. There were 100 of them in total, and in the end they merged into one and pierced through Han Shu's body. Pooh! Fresh blood sprayed violently from his mouth as Han Shu instantly fell onto the dragon's back. His divine walls were instantly shattered into pieces, and numerous tiny holes even appeared on his chest. His body had already been completely corroded and pierced through by the energy of the 6 glorious heavenly tribulation. The strongest Saint Martial King in the Darkstone Empire had died on the dragon's back with a whimper just like that. Even Han Shu's dragon let out a mournful cry. It had been heavily injured by the 6 planets' tribulation and the formless elephant's power, and it fell to the ground with Han Shu's corpse. In the air, a sacred Martial King's heavenly Tao lattice of the law of space floated there, glowing with a lustrous light. Lin Muyu slowly opened her hand and placed Han Shu's godhead into her pouch. On the ground, the tiger leopard cavalry and dragon riders were all dumbfounded. They could only watch as the vice-captain of the Blackstone Dragon Riders was killed on the battlefield. However, they should feel fortunate. Out of respect for Han Shu, Lin Muyu had left Han Shu's corpse intact. Otherwise, if the full power of the 6 planets' tribulation had been unleashed, Han Shu would probably have been reduced to a bloody mist. It's your turn. Lin Muyu drew her Ice Origin sword and pointed it at Bailey Qin. She said, Marshal of the Blackstone Empire, one of the sacred martial gods of the celestial pole continent, Bailey Qin, you must really want to kill me now, right? That's right. You've guessed correctly. Bailey Qin stepped through the air, and the sharp sword in his hand shone brightly. His face was expressionless as he said, What a good Lin Muyu. You're decisive in killing. You killed my beloved General Han Shu in the blink of an eye. You really have some tricks up your sleeve. Marshal, are you praising me? You can say that. Bailey Qin sneered, however you only managed to kill Han Shu by relying on the supreme god force of your supreme godhead. Without this supreme godhead, what are you? Lin Muyu smiled. It seems like you've taken a fancy to my sovereign godhead. That's right. I wonder if His Highness King Qin is willing to part with it. That will depend on whether the marshal has the ability to take it. Arrogant. Bailey Qin roared. He didn't give Lin Muyu any time to react. He raised the sharp sword in his hand and slashed down. It was extremely fast and a heavy feeling sealed off the surroundings. He didn't give Lin Muyu any chance to dodge. A true expert knew how to make full use of their strength, and Bailey Qin was such a person. She couldn't move with the falling star steps, but this seemed to be within Lin Muyu's expectations. If Bailey Qin didn't have such a method, he probably wouldn't be able to stand up against an expert like Longxi of the Thunder Blaze sect in the Blackstone Empire. She raised her Ice Origin sword horizontally, and the sword's blade was wrapped in the dense light of the 7 luminaries' celestial sword. Lin Muyu's left hand pressed against the sword, using her strongest strength to block Bailey Qin's attack. Clang. The 2 swords clashed and Lin Muyu fell from the sky. Her body was dragged along the trajectory of the space, as though she had fallen into a huge net. After she forcefully stabilized herself in the air, the blood in her body was already in a mess. Bailey Qin was indeed an expert at the 3rd level of the God Emperor realm. Chapter 909. Break for me. Bailey Qin roared and slashed 3 times in a row. Lin Muyu's diamond body and dragon blood shield were broken. Next would be the divine wall. Once the divine wall was broken, Bailey Qin's attacks would reach her body. A mouthful of blood was spat out and turned into a blood mist in the air. However, it did not dissipate and hovered around Lin Muyu. On the ground, countless soldiers in the Longdan army camp were terrified. Everyone could see that Lin Muyu was no match for Bailey Qin. The difference in their strength was too big. Your Highness. Wei Chou and Situ Shui murmured at the same time. However, no one could intervene in the battle. The battle between Bailey Qin and Lin Muyu had almost formed a huge circular force field. Those who were not strong enough could not enter, including ultimate gods like Wei Chou and Situ Senior. Qin, if you don't help him, he might die. Marshal Bailey Qin will not show mercy. Terralyn glanced at Qin and realized that she was much calmer than she had imagined. Qin stood silently in the yellow sand. She looked up at the direction of Lin Muyu and Bailey Qin, but she could not see through Lin Muyu. She wanted to help him, but Qin could not feel the bond between her and Lin Muyu. How could she save someone she did not know? Moreover, they were in a battle of generals, so she had to follow the rules of the battlefield. For the sake of the Qin Empire, Su Jiantao appeared beside Qin and said, Master Qin, please help His Highness you. If he dies, the backbone of the Qin Empire will fall. Sheen moved her red lips and took a step forward. However, she seemed to be hindered by something and her shoulders trembled. I can't do it. I can't do it, Su Jiantao. Why exactly? Sheen's voice trembled. I can't submit to the fate that others have arranged for me. Sister Hyan told me this before. I don't even know if I'm Qinin. Su Jiantao remained silent. In the sky, the collision between the two forces became more and more intense. The fifth element and the shapeless elephant technique fused together and heavily shook Bailey Qin's blade. However, Bailey Qin did not gain the upper hand at all. In fact, Lin Muyu's own spirit wall had already been destroyed and was starting to disintegrate. Russell, Bailey Qin's divine power was strong. When he waved his sword, the fine sand turned into sharp blades and continuously cut open wounds on Lin Muyu's body. In the blink of an eye, her white battle robe was dyed red with blood. What? Have you reached your limit? Bailey Qin laughed crazily. His sword once again struck Lin Muyu's ice essence sword. Dang! The ice essence sword that Si Kongyao gifted to her instantly shattered. The master's strength was not enough and the result was the destruction of this sacred weapon. Lin Muyu looked at the shattered ice essence sword in the sky and felt a chill in her heart. She had underestimated Bailey Qin's strength. In terms of battle strength, Bailey Qin, who was an 87th level Grotto Heaven God Emperor, was probably above the Demon Emperor Nushi. If this is your limit, then you don't deserve to own the great land of the Shattered Cauldron world. Bailey Qin laughed loudly. You Qin people talk about burying your loyal bones in the mountains. Lin Muyu, don't worry. After you die, I will piece your corpse piece by piece and bury it under the mountains of the dragon-slaying pass. I will let you live forever. However, I, Bailey Qin, will have to help you rule this land. Haha, is that so? Lin Muyu suddenly smiled. The smile on his face was exceptionally coquettish. He suddenly rotated his palm and the blood mist that he had condensed around his body was pulled up and danced into a ball. Thunder and lightning flashed around the blood mist. Even the entire sky turned dark and blood red. Finally, he decided to use the unique skill that he had just cultivated, the 8th style of the star technique, blood refining the firmament. Using the blood of a god to purify the firmament and cleanse all sins. The golden red blood ball in his hand was getting bigger and bigger. Lin Muyu's strength was also increasing. The increase in strength even made Bailey Qin feel a little threatened. Oh. Bailey Qin squinted his eyes and smiled. This is getting more and more interesting. There is actually such a powerful martial technique in the mortal world. I really didn't expect it. However, do you think you can defeat me with this? Lin Muyu didn't say anything. He swept his palm and the power of the blood refining the firmament whizzed over. Bang! Lightning exploded in the sky. Bailey Qin used his rock shield to protect himself. His rock shield, which was said to be as hard as a rock, was continuously disintegrated and cracked under the attacks of the blood refining the firmament. Bailey Qin was slightly startled. He hurriedly condensed even more divine power to repair his rock shield, but it seemed that it was already too late. Swoosh! The blood ball swallowed Bailey Qin and his sword. Furthermore, the blood ball grew bigger and bigger until it was as big as the moon. The surrounding soldiers of the two armies were forced to retreat by the tyrannical impact. Their faces were all pale. There were continuous explosions in the blood refining the firmament. Lin Muyu and Bailey Qin were still fighting. However, the people outside couldn't see clearly what was happening. Situ Shui bit her red lips and said with a heartache, Your Highness is using your own blood to keep Bailey Qin in check. Your Highness, Wei Chou clenched his fists and didn't say a word. As for Terralin, Lake, Zhou Shimin and the others, they were all dumbfounded. Ever since they were young, they had been taught that the celestial realm was supreme. Those below the celestial realm were all ants. However, the scene they were seeing right now was completely different. Lin Muyu and Bailey Qin's strength. Even in the celestial realm, wouldn't they be ranked among the top? Marshal. In the Blackstone Empire's army, a group of captaincy stared with their mouths agape. Bailey Qin was their last hope. If Bailey Qin was defeated, then the 200,000-strong army of the Blackstone Empire would be like a group of dragons without a leader. At that time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Ping! Finally, a corner of the blood ball formed by the blood refining the firmament exploded. Resplendent golden light shone from within. Following that, the entire blood ball began to collapse. The result was clear. Bailey Qin stood proudly in the sky like a god. He raised his sword and pierced through Lin Muyu's abdomen. Lin Muyu had been defeated. Everyone turned pale with fright. The soldiers in the Longdan army camp were even more terrified. Many of them were already crying. Your Highness. Your Highness, don't. However, Lin Muyu wasn't completely unconscious. A bright moonlight flashed in her palm and landed heavily on Bailey Chen's shoulder. It was the falling moonstream. Yua! Bailey Chen spat out another mouthful of blood. He swung his sword and slammed Lin Muyu's body onto the ground. Lin Muyu's body was covered in blood as she fell onto the yellow sand. At the same time, blood splattered everywhere. Terralin, Sheen, and the others were all stained with some of it. Your Highness. Your Highness. Wei Chou, Situ Sen, and the others hurriedly rushed over. However, at this moment, a whimpering sound suddenly rang out from behind. Was Sheen. Her flawless face seemed to be on fire as streaks of blood-red flames flickered in and out of nowhere. Lin Muyu's blood had splattered onto her face. Ah! Sheen was in so much pain that she whimpered. Her skin was burning inch by inch. The pain was unimaginable. However, she didn't know why this was happening. Why would Lin Muyu's blood resonate with the blood in her body? At that moment, Lin Muyu slowly raised her head and saw an unforgettable scene. The young girl was dressed in strange clothes. Her eyes were closed and she was moaning in pain. Her appearance and posture were exactly the same as the person she missed. Xiaoyin, is that you? Lin Muyu murmured. Sheen gritted her teeth and energy surged from the depths of her body. She whimpered and an unknown power quickly broke through the limits of her blood and broke out of her body. They were golden chains, the god-binding chains. At that moment, countless images appeared in Sheen's mind. The scenes of the past, the laughter, the crying, all appeared in her mind. She remembered everything. In the air, Bailey Chen's voice sounded. He held his sword with both hands and descended. The long sword pierced through Lin Muyu's back and pinned him to the ground. Blood flowed down the blade of the sword. Lin Muyu endured the heart-wrenching pain, but she still raised her head and looked in Qin Yin's direction. Tears flowed down her cheeks. Xiaoyin, don't Xiaoyin! Sheen's body trembled and she suddenly opened her eyes. Instantly, the flaming eyes shone brightly and swept across the battlefield. She looked at the familiar scene in front of her and suddenly shouted from the bottom of her heart, "Let him go! Let him go! What did you say?" Bailey Chen looked at her arrogantly. Sheen's figure had already turned into a bolt of lightning. The stellar sword pierced through the air and slashed towards Bailey Chen's shoulder with unparalleled power. Shi Yan's 7 slashes, the third strike, destruction. Even someone as strong as Bailey Chen was slashed and rolled on the ground, blood spurting from his mouth. Sheen brushed past Lin Muyu, who was kneeling on the ground. The two of them stood back to back. Suddenly, a ray of light shone brightly. Lin Muyu cried out in pain. The god-binding chains in her body seemed to have been triggered and broke out of her body. The god-binding chains in Sheen's body also responded to each other. The multiple god-binding chains in her body pulled and fused with each other, lifting their bodies up and binding them back to back. The resonance of their bloodlines triggered the resonance of heaven and earth. The light in the sky flickered. Is it really you? Lin Muyu's voice was weak. I don't know, maybe it's me. Sheen replied, but her tears could not stop flowing. Tell me, quickly tell me, everything. Everything? Lin Muyu coughed violently and said, I have been waiting here for you, waiting for you to come back. Whether you remember me or not, I will continue to wait. I know the pain of the 6 paths of reincarnation. I will keep my promise to Emperor Father and continue to wait. Whether you love me or not, you will always be my Xiaoyin. You are worthy of me protecting you with my life. Sheen's mind instantly became clear. She had completely remembered everything. Silly girl, if you protect others like this, who will protect you? Her tears fell like rain. She cried and said, I am Qin. I am Qin. I remember everything. Lin Muyu, from today onwards, I, Qin, will protect you. Chapter 9-10. The light of the god-binding chains gradually dimmed and retracted back into their bodies. With a rustling sound, Lin Muyu's feet touched the ground, but a wave of dizziness came over her. Her injuries were too severe and she fell down. Qin hurriedly turned around and hugged him, but she didn't dare to look at Lin Muyu's eyes. Xiaoyin, Lin Muyu forced her eyes wide open and said, Let me look at you. No, you don't want to see me. It's okay. No matter what you become, you will always be my Xiaoyin. Lin Muyu coughed violently, and her whole body trembled. Qin slowly turned her face, and a pair of blazing eyes with golden flames floating in them looked at her lover blankly. But what she didn't expect was that Lin Muyu could actually look her in the eyes. In fact, Lin Muyu was also indescribably amazed. The blazing eyes was a kind of domain power, and the feeling of burning one's soul was not pleasant to anyone. But the invisible elephant art that Lin Muyu cultivated was also a domain power, and it was a divine art that came from God Emperor Fuxi of the sky beyond heaven. As long as Lin Muyu used a bit of the invisible elephant art, she would naturally be able to look Qinin in the eyes. Actually, this kind of eyes is also very beautiful. Lin Muyu smiled. 2 lines of crystal-clear tears fell from the blazing eyes. Qinin hugged Lin Muyu tightly and said, "Thank you. Thank you." At this time Terralyn walked forward and put one hand on Lin Muyu's arm and said to Qinin, "I don't know if it's better to call you Qinin or Sheen, but I'll call you Sheen for now. I'm used to it." "Terralyn? Go." Terralyn nodded and said, "I'll take care of him. You go kill Bailey Qin. Bailey Qin is already injured, so you can't let him escape. Otherwise he'll definitely take revenge. You and I both understand the principle of exterminating evil. If we don't kill Bailey Qin today, I'm afraid we won't have another chance like this in the future." Qin let go of Lin Muyu's hand. Light circulated in her palm and gathered into the shape of a stellar sword. She said softly, "Big brother, you wait for me here for a while." Lin Muyu lowered her head and did not speak. After being severely injured by Bailey Qin, she did not even have the strength to speak. "Kill?" Su Jiantao and Wei Chou raised their swords at almost the same time. The army madly charged towards the Blackstone Empire's army. In the midst of the chaos, a golden light blossomed. It was the eyes of the blazing light colliding with Bailey Qin's domain. Immediately after, tens of sky dragon crystals fell, and Shi Yan's 7 slashes swept across the battlefield. Lin Muyu and Terralyn stayed where they were, watching the battle from afar. Before the 50th round, a heart-wrenching wail came from the sky. It was Bailey Qin's voice. Pieces of broken rock walls fell from the sky like rain. This meant that Bailey Qin's godly power was already disintegrating. After another 50 rounds, the clouds in the sky exploded with a shocking light. A figure fell from the sky. It was Bailey Qin's body, but it was headless. Pa! In the energy screen that shattered the void, Qin appeared beside Lin Muyu, holding Bailey Qin's head in her hand. "Give it to me," Terralyn demanded. Qin nodded her head. A few seconds later, Terralyn carried Bailey Qin's head and flew into the sky. She raised the head high and said with a voice as loud and clear as the descent of a deity, "Bailey Qin was cruel and vicious. He has been killed. Soldiers of the Blackstone Empire, give up resisting. You have already lost." Originally, the more than 200,000 soldiers of the Blackstone Empire had the upper hand. The Tiger Leopard cavalry had charged forward and killed many soldiers of the Qin army. However, after Terralyn's shout, they immediately lost their will to fight. Bailey Qin was not only the Blackstone Empire's marshal, but also one of the 2 sacred martial gods. He was the military god of the Blackstone Empire and the symbol of military strength. Now that Bailey Qin was dead, the mountain of the Blackstone Empire's army had collapsed. In the next moment, the army collapsed. Sounds of killing could be heard from afar. It was Jianghu and Ding Shi's army. The plains in front of the dragon-slaying pass were like a large net. Now that the net had been opened, all that was left was to catch the fish in the net. Wei Chou looked excited. He raised his sword and led the Longdan army camp to charge back and forth. How many days had it been? He had been enduring the pressure of being hunted. Now he could finally fight back to his heart's content. Dust flew everywhere. The area within a radius of 10 kilometers had been turned into a battlefield. It was difficult to distinguish between friend and foe. However, as long as they saw someone wearing the black armor of the Blackstone Empire, they would start fighting. In the beginning, the Ashen Flame Army and the Sea Mountain Army were still able to resist a little. However, when Ding Shi and Xiang Yu's troops joined the battle, this kind of resistance was weakened. The Dragon Knights in the sky kept circling around. From the beginning of the slaughter, they were unable to do anything. Even Terralyn, Lake and the others joined the battle. It was rare to see a battle angel killing a Dragon Knight. Qin was full of guilt. She didn't think that Terralyn, Lake and the others had already made the decision to help the state of Qin fight against the Blackstone Empire. If the various gods of the Western Divine Realm were to find out, her family would probably be implicated as well. "You come with me." Qin put Lin Muyu's arm on her shoulder and flew up to the dragon-slaying pass. She sat down at a gap in the battlement that had been destroyed by the stone torch carts. She nestled in Lin Muyu's arms and gently opened her palm. The warm power of the law of light permeated the wound like a warm sun. Immediately Lin Muyu's wound began to stop bleeding and quickly healed. She knew that Lin Muyu wanted to see this battle with her own eyes. This battle was related to the future of the entire Lingnan and the survival of half of the country. However, what Qin Yin didn't expect was that Lin Muyu didn't look at the battle below the city wall. Instead, she looked straight at her. Immediately, Qin Yin's face turned red. "What's wrong? This time you're not leaving, right?" Lin Muyu asked without much confidence. "Yes, I'm not leaving. What is the Western Divine Realm like? Is that the last reincarnation of the Heavenly Tao?" "Yes." Qin Yin gently nodded and said, "Sister Haiyan said that as long as I remember everything, it means that the 6 paths of reincarnation is over and I can be a new person. You're not completely a person now but a god." Lin Muyu looked at her attire and smiled. However, this smile affected the wound and she couldn't help but let out a cry. "You're too careless, don't move." Qin Yin frowned slightly and used a dagger to cut open the armor on Lin Muyu's abdomen. After applying medicine, she tore off the white skirt of the Western Divine Realm and carefully bandaged it for him. As she bandaged it, her heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife because she saw that there were many crisscross scars on Lin Muyu's body. He had been guarding the Great Qin Empire for so many years. God knows how many times he had been injured. "Xiaoyin." "Yes. Don't cry." Lin Muyu struggled to raise her palm and used her dirty fingers to wipe away Qin Yin's tears. Instead, there were 2 gray marks on her snow-white face. Lin Muyu hurriedly put down her hand and pretended that nothing had happened. Qin Yin giggled and leaned her face on Lin Muyu's chest. "I'm sorry, it's all because of my willfulness that you've suffered so much. You are indeed willful." Lin Muyu leaned against the broken wall and said, "Your willfulness almost caused Lingnan to suffer a great disaster. Shaoxi was criticized and suffered for so many years. Your willfulness almost caused the entire Qin Empire to be completely destroyed." "I was wrong." Qin Yin raised her face and looked like she was begging for mercy. "I really know I was wrong. I will always stay by your side and never leave you." "That's what you said." "By the way, do you still remember that Shaoxi went to save you in the Ghost Realm?" I remember all of it." Qin Yin nodded and her eyes turned red. "I owe Shaoxi too much. The 3 of us don't owe each other anything." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "You give because you care. This kind of giving doesn't ask for anything in return. So don't feel guilty. Something like that happened to Shaoxi, you and I would do the same." "Well, where is Shaoxi now?" "Qihai Province. I don't know how the war is going there." "That's the main force of the Tianji Empire." Lin Muyu sighed worriedly. Qin Yin held his hand and said, "Brother Yu, Xiaoyin is back now. I will share the burden with you and Shaoxi. We will fight the enemy side by side. We will definitely drive all the bandits out." "Okay. I've been in the Western Heaven Realm for so many years so I know very little about the Shattered Cauldron world. Tell Xiaoyin about what happened in the past few years?" Qin Yin sat beside Lin Muyu and looked at the battlefield in the distance that was filled with smoke and dust. Lin Muyu rested her head on her arms and let the warm sunlight fall on her body. She said with a smile, "Actually, not much happened. The Iha kingdom was defeated and fled to the dragon-shaped island in the East Sea. Brother Feng Jixing led the fleet to encircle them and returned in defeat. Then Wei Chou of the Longdan army camp fought with the demon race in the East region and spent 3 years to defeat the entire demon race and drove the demon race into the frozen polar lands in the north. Then the collision of the 2 spirit mountains caused the plains to merge. The celestial pole land pirates came and killed the demon race's demon emperor Feng Ning'er and Feng Jing'er. Qian Feng was forced to lead the Central South Iron Cavalry to surrender to us. You should know what happened after that. Then this battle will be the true turning point." Qin Yin looked into the distance and said faintly, "I didn't expect this. I thought I would sink into hell, but after so many twists and turns I finally came back here. I can come back to you again. This feeling of returning home is really great. It's a pity that people from home have come. Then ask them to leave." Qin Yin giggled. "Xiaoyin, you haven't told me about your eyes and your identity as an angel. What is going on?" Qin Yin suddenly thought of the various unbearable experiences in the land of exile and the Western Divine Realm. She immediately frowned and said, "Brother Yu, I don't want to recall these things for now. I'll tell you one by one in the future." Lin Muyu also knew that she must have experienced many painful memories, so he sat up and hugged her shoulders, saying, "Forget the things that you don't want to remember. It's good that you can return. This is really like a dream." Qin Yin was taken aback. She turned around and brought her beautiful face closer to Lin Muyu's. Then she kissed Lin Muyu's lips lightly. She even bit his lower lip with a little force. Is it true? It's true. Lin Muyu touched his lips. It really hurts. The bite of the 50th Paradise God wave. Qin couldn't help but smile and gently hugged him, saying, "It's really good to be back by your side. Ahem, Xiaoyin, you've grown bigger." What a frivolous feeling, but Qin also knew that such a frivolous person was the real Lin Muyu. In front of others, he had to put on the airs of the Qin Emperor, but in front of her, he could be his true self without any scruples. Chapter 9-11. Late at night, the flames of war continued to spread in the distance. From Jianghu Pass all the way to Linghan City, there were scenes of killing and killing everywhere. There were over 10,000 people in the Longdan army camp, plus the 100,000 people under Su Jiantao, Xiang Yu's troops and Xin's troops. In total, there were close to 200,000 soldiers fighting a bloody battle with the 230,000 soldiers of the Blackstone Empire. Even if the enemy had lost their will to fight, it wasn't an easy task to kill them all. Perhaps this process would last for a week or even a month. All the generals seemed to have a tacit understanding to not leave any captives. After the invasion of the Blackstone Empire, they would massacre most of the cities they passed through. In Linghan City alone, they had massacred close to 100,000 civilians. The originally prosperous Linghan City had countless villages and towns within 100 kilometers, but now, it had become a desolate and uninhabited land. There were even many places where the corpses hadn't completely rotted yet. The relationship between the Qin Empire and the Blackstone Empire was that of mortal enemies with no room for negotiation. Therefore they wouldn't leave any captives. The Blackstone Empire was completely annihilated, and the order given by Lin Muyu was the same: leave no one alive. The remaining 20 or so dragon riders of the Blackstone Empire had already lost their will to fight. They flew away from the mainland and returned to the celestial pole continent. Meanwhile, the tiger leopard cavalry on the ground were gradually retreating under the sharpness of the magic crystal crossbows and white drill arrows. The outcome was already decided. At night, the Jianghu Pass residence was brightly lit. Servants and workers came in an endless stream. Wei Chou left by Yin and a group of guards to protect Lin Muyu. Meanwhile, Xin was protected by Terralin, Lake and the others. The officials of the residence prepared an extremely sumptuous banquet. Firstly, it was to welcome Lin Muyu, and secondly, it was to celebrate the return of the Empress Qin to the world. After 5 years of implementation of the three kings ruling the world, it was finally time to change the national policy. The candles were brightly lit. Under the illumination of the lanterns, Shangguan Jingyue happily sat beside Qin, reminiscing about the feelings of parting. Lin Muyu suddenly raised her head and said, "We have guests." His spiritual pulse art was very sensitive to auras. It was not until 3 minutes later that Qin also sensed it. She couldn't help but stand up and smile. "Yes, Xiaoxi. We're going to welcome her?" And 2 silhouettes flew out of the mansion and headed north in the night sky. From afar, it seemed that Tang Xiaoxi had also sensed the aura here. Lin Muyu took out a dragon crystal and used it as a light source. She could see Tang Xiaoxi from a few miles away. Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. She saw a girl in a battle angel costume beside Lin Muyu. She looked very familiar. Although her eyes were closed, she could still vaguely recognize her. "Xiaoyin, is that you?" Tang Xiaoxi asked in a trembling voice. Qin didn't say anything. She just lightly opened her arms. "Ah, Xiaoyin." Tang Xiaoxi had mixed feelings. She quickly flew into Qin Yin's embrace. The two girls' figures created ripples in the air and rushed out for a long distance before stopping. Lin Muyu also flew over and said, "Xiaoxi, how's the Seven Seas province? The Longji Corps has been defeated." Tang Xiaoxi was still hugging Qin tightly, as if she was afraid that she would accidentally fly away. She said, "Commander Feng has instigated 100,000 wolf soldiers to join forces with our Cloud Pass, and defeated the 150,000 Longji army led by Feng Lan. Now that the Longji army has been defeated, I reckon that within a month, they will be chased out of Cloud Province by Commander Feng." "That's great." Lin Muyu was relieved. Now the biggest threat was the 300,000 soldiers of the Qinji Empire led by Baiming Huan. She didn't know if there was a battle in the direction of Cangnan Province's steel wall. However, Tang Xiaoxi and Qin didn't seem to be concerned about the battle. Instead, they were asking about each other's well-being. It would be a long story. Lin Muyu touched her nose. She felt that she was left out when the two women were together. She said, "I'm so hungry. Let's go back and eat while we talk, okay?" Okay. Tang Xiaoxi was hungry too. After flying for a day without any rest, how could she not be hungry? When the three of them reappeared in the banquet hall, all the officials left their seats. Everyone knelt down in unison and shouted, "Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Emperor Qin. Greetings, Princess Shi." Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi looked at Qin Yin with a smile. Qin Yin understood tacitly. She raised her hand slightly and said, "Everyone please rise and continue to eat. There's no need to be so formal." Everyone thanked her. Lin Muyu supported Qin Yin and brought her back to her seat. Qin Yin could only close her eyes when facing these mortals. Otherwise, when she opened her flaming eyes, these people wouldn't be able to bear it at all. As an empress, it was natural for her to take care of the officials' feelings. Halfway through the banquet, there were hurried footsteps outside. Su Jintao walked in wearing a blood-stained armor. He knelt down on one knee and said, "Greetings, Your Highness. You may rise." Lin Muyu greeted Qin Yin. "Marquis Songnan, how's the battle going?" "Reporting to Your Highness, I led an army of 100,000 to pursue the enemy for nearly 50 kilometers. There were 3 consecutive large-scale bloody battles and we beheaded more than 70,000 people. As for Xiang Yu's and Ding Shi's troops, I don't know about them for the time being." 70,000 people beheaded? Lin Muyu smiled happily and said, "What about our losses?" Su Jintao said, "More than 39,000 people died in battle, more than 10,000 were seriously injured, and more than 20,000 were lightly injured. I have returned, and the Deputy General will lead the army to continue the pursuit. May I request the Dragon Slaying Pass to immediately send rations to the front line?" "Got it. Go to the military supplies department to handle it." Lin Muyu frowned. "We actually lost so many of our own, inconceivable." "Su Jintao, did you recklessly charge in and fall into the enemy's trap?" Su Jintao hurriedly knelt down again. "Your Highness, please don't wrongly accuse me. I advanced step by step and fought steadily. However, the soldiers of the Blackstone Empire are all lunatics. Once they are forced into a desperate situation, they start to fight with their lives on the line. Moreover, their beast cavalry is really powerful. Our 3 cavalrymen fought against 1 beast cavalry, but we still lost 1 person in battle. This kind of battle loss is considered not bad." Qin Yin murmured, "The overall battle power of the Celestial Pole continent is indeed above us, especially in close combat. Even an elite force like the Longdan army camp can only fight them to a draw. If it were any other army, they would definitely suffer a loss." Lin Muyu nodded. "Pass down the order to continue the pursuit. No matter the cost, kill all the enemy in the Soaring Sky province. Leave no one alive." "Yes." The old official Zheng Yifan stood up, cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Your Highness, since we have already recovered our lost land, then we should quickly send officials and guards to Linghan City and other major cities to guard. We should also put up notices to pacify the people and restore the administrative order of the Soaring Sky province as soon as possible. Otherwise, the civilians will become rioters, and when that time comes, the bandits will run amok." "Lord Fan is right. Let's leave this matter to Aunt Luo." Qin Yin smiled. Su Yu said respectfully, "I understand. Please rest assured, Your Highness Yin." Zheng Yifan said again, "Although the pursuit of the enemy is still ongoing, this old official thinks that we should prepare for a rainy day. We should immediately transfer elite troops from each army to start training. Songnan province will soon have a big battle. If we wait until then to start training troops, I'm afraid it will be too late." "What does Yifan think should be done?" Qin Yin asked. Zheng Yifan said, "Our army in Lingnan has a total of 230,000 troops, but after killing the Blackstone Empire's bandits, the number of soldiers that can fight is estimated to be only half, which is 110,000. At the same time, the major cities in the Soaring Sky province need a portion of the garrison to pacify the people. We also need to leave a large number of troops along the coast to resist the attacks of the Blackstone Empire's pirates. Therefore, we can only use half of the remaining troops, which is 50,000 people. At most, Lingnan can only transfer 50,000 troops to reinforce the steel wall. This is the most difficult part for us." Qin Yin nodded and did not say anything. Zheng Yifan was an old official for 3 generations. At the same time, he was also a highly respected and intelligent official. Naturally, there was not much to worry about with this old fox in charge. However, they could not completely give him power. Regarding this, Qin Yin, Lin Muyu, and Tang Xiaoxi had reached a consensus. Therefore they had never given Zheng Yifan too high of a position and power. But now that there were so many things to be done, they had no choice but to use Zheng Yifan. Under the table, Lin Muyu held Qin Yin's little hand and motioned for her to speak. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said, "Then this matter will be temporarily handed over to Duke Fan. Other than the troops in the Longdan army camp, which will be under Duke Wei's direct command, Duke Fan will be in charge of the rest of the army's reorganization. The commander of the new army will be Su Jiantao." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Qin Yin was too smart. She gave half of the power to Zheng Yifan and let him do the work but not the actual power. This was the most brilliant part of her plan. Zheng Yifan nodded in thanks. In reality he didn't want that much. Lin Muyu picked up a plate of deer leg in front of her and sent it directly in front of Su Jiantao. She said, "Here, you won the battle. This is your reward. Drink some wine after you're done eating and immediately take your men to Linghan City. This city must be taken down as soon as possible." Su Jiantao accepted the plate with a smile. "Thank you for the meat, Your Highness." Tang Xiaoxi frowned slightly and said, "South Ridge can only contribute 50,000 troops, and Sangnan Province's Qin Yin has less than 100,000 troops. Feng Jixing and Qin Xiaoli can't split themselves, so they can only take out 50,000 troops at most. With a total of 200,000 troops, can they really stop Baiming Huan's army of 300,000? Lin Muyu's gaze swept across the row of people on the right and said, "This will depend on whether or not the battle angels are willing to help." Terralin laughed softly, "I am Sheen's man, of course I am willing to stay and help." Lake said, "I am also willing to follow Lord Sheen." Zhou Shimin nodded, "Me too." Terralin said, "Reporting to Your Highness there is another important matter. Lake has a crush on Lord Sheen. Do you want me to help you teach him a lesson?" Lake's face was ashen and he wanted to pinch her to death. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "Ahem, there is no need for that. Everyone should be united against a common enemy." But at this moment, a battle angel stood up, performed the Western Heaven Realm's etiquette and said, "Lord Sheen, now that you have restored your identity as the Shattered Cauldron Realm's Empress, and I am a battle angel of the Western Divine Realm, we cannot continue to follow Lord Sheen. If I continue to follow you, it will mean that I have betrayed my faith and country." Qin Yin nodded and said softly, "Zak Ku, I know your difficulties, so I will not force you. After this meal you can go anywhere you want. I will give you my blessings. If there really comes a day when you have nowhere to go, then come find me. The gates of the Qin Empire will always be open to you." "Thank you, Lord Sheen." Zak Ku took a few steps back and knelt on one knee. The other two battle angels also stood up and expressed their withdrawal. They could not continue to help the Qin army attack the army of the Celestial Pole continent, or else they would be punished by the gods. Just like this, the battle angels under Qin Yin's command changed from 6 to 3, 3 lunatics who were willing to go crazy and risk their lives with her. Chapter 9:12. At night, the moonlight was tranquil. There were many quiet courtyards in the courtyard of the dragon-slaying past lord's residence. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had arranged their rooms together. The two had been separated for too long, and the misunderstanding was too deep, so much so that they had too much to talk about. There was no sound in the quiet night. Only the faint chirping of insects could be heard from the distant fertile fields. The chirping was very melodious. The moonlight shone on the carved wooden railings of the corridor. Qin Yin held a cup of fragrant tea in her hand. Unable to fall asleep, she stood quietly under the moonlight. She raised her face and felt the clouds in the sky. "The bed is ready." Tang Xiaoxi walked out of the room and said in surprise, "Xiaoyin, you still want to drink tea at night? Be careful, you won't be able to sleep." Qin Yin smiled slightly, "I won't. Besides, I'm used to it. It's the same whether I sleep or not. For so many years, I haven't truly slept a night in peace." Tang Xiaoxi walked forward and held her hand. Pouting, she said, "Reincarnation must be very painful, right? What kind of feeling is that? The body and soul are separated and burned. Can't be said to be painful. Perhaps it can only be regarded as a kind of understanding?" Qin Yin looked at Tang Xiaoxi and saw her face full of guilt. She must still feel guilty for killing her in the blood-red abyss. Qin Yin held Tang Xiaoxi's shoulder and said with a smile, "Silly Xiaoxi, don't think about it anymore. It's all in the past. This is what I deserve. If I don't do this, how can I atone in front of you? After all, Masterland's death was caused by me." "Grandpa he." Tang Xiaoxi nodded speechlessly. After a long while she said, Grandpa is too selfish. He even ordered the descendants of the Tang family to attack Lanyan City and build up an army for himself. Everyone's standpoint is different. I've experienced a lot over the years and I'm much more sensible than I was back then. I deeply understand that every time I instigate a rebellion, it not only brings about a change in the imperial power, but also a decade of disaster for the common people. Grandpa's death in Bailing City is a nightmare for me, but it's good news for the world. As she spoke, Tang Xiaoxi's red lips twitched and she sat on the railing as she muttered, "I'm an unfilial descendant of the Tang family for saying such words. But that's what I think in the bottom of my heart. Little Yin, you're the successor of the Qin family and you have your own standpoint. I hate you for killing my grandfather, but I also understand why you did it. If you selfishly allowed the world to descend into chaos for my sake, then you wouldn't only be letting me down but the entire world. But Xiaoyin, do you still blame me for what I did to you?" "I've heard about what happened to Yaoji," Qin Yin said quietly. "It's all in the past. We are good sisters and we will never be separated in this life. We entrust our lives to each other, right?" Tang Xiaoxi nodded heavily. "Yes. I have nothing to worry about. For me there are only two relatives in the world. One is you and the other is Mu. Everything I do is for you. I'm good, Xiaoxi." Qin Yin opened her arms and hugged her. Her eyes reddened as she said, "It's just that Brother Ayu is stuck between the two of us. It doesn't matter." Tang Xiaoxi smiled faintly. "Actually, I've already thought it through. The love and marriage of mortals in the secular world are already very far away for us. We are gods, destined to leave the secular world and ascend to the heavens. You love Mu and I love her. Mu loves you and maybe she also loves me. As long as we are together, it's fine. We have eternal life. What we should think about is not selfishness and possessiveness, but companionship and sharing, right?" Qin Yin nodded. "You're right. I just don't know what Brother Yu is thinking." On the side, a person on a house not far away suddenly sat up. It turned out that he had long been lying on the roof looking at the moonlight. Moreover, he was not breathing at all. In the entire Zhanlong Pass, perhaps only Lin Muyu could lower her spiritual sense to this extent. He smiled from afar. "I'm different from what you think." "Oh, how different?" Qin Yin asked with a smile. Lin Muyu gave 2 thumbs up. "I want to marry too. After we succeed in the Shattered Cauldron realm and retire, I want to bring you 2 back to my hometown to see my father. I want him to see his 2 daughters-in-law. Then I'll hold a grand wedding in Shanghai." Tang Xiaoxi giggled. "Didn't you say that your hometown is monogamous? If you marry 2, aren't you afraid that your hometown's imperial court will punish you with the law?" "Humph, if they really want to punish me with the crime of bigamy, then I'll just ascend. If they have the ability, they can go to the heavens to punish me." "Humph." Qin Yin's pretty face turned red. She mimicked him and snorted. "He's actually so self-righteous. It's really unbearable. Xiaoxi, let's go beat him up, okay?" "Okay." 2 beautiful figures flashed and appeared beside Lin Muyu. One on each side, they held him down, looking like they wanted to beat him up. Lin Muyu complained incessantly. Back then, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi didn't have high cultivation, so it was easy to deal with them. But now, both of them were God King realm experts. Moreover, they still had a lot of hidden strength. Their strength was extraordinary. If it wasn't for the fact that his cultivation wasn't bad, both of his arms would have been twisted off. Taking advantage of the situation, Lin Muyu hugged the slender waists of the 2 beauties. "Alright, if you keep messing around, I'm going to scream murder." The 2 girls' faces instantly turned red. This kind of joke was already extremely dirty to them. At this moment, Terilyn's voice came from the room below. Hey, can you 3 lower your voices? A single dog like me has already suffered 10 trillion damage. Lord Xin, you have to be more dignified. You're our leader." Qin Yin's face turned even redder. "Wu, alright, stop messing around. Let's get down to business." Lin Muyu was still hugging the 2 beauties on both sides. This was probably the reward for all those years of hardship and pain. While feeling the fragrance and vitality of the 2 beauties, he said, "Xiaoyin, I heard that you're already the Dark Moon Queen of the Banished Land. The entire Banished Land is under your control?" "Yes." Qin Yin nodded. "But those memories of fighting and killing each other? I'd rather not exist." "No, they can still exist. I've seen the weapons of the Xin Legion soldiers from the Banished Land. They seem to be very advanced. How many of them are still in Dragon Slaying Pass?" Qin Yin was at a loss. "You want to study these weapons?" "Yes." Lin Muyu reluctantly let go of the 2 beauties' waists. She clenched her fists and said, "Technology is the #1 productive force. Forget it. You might not understand, but these weapons might affect the future situation of the entire continent. Xiaoyin, how many more banished land legions are in Dragon Slaying Pass? They didn't participate in the pursuit. They've basically all returned. There are about 7,000 or so left. They're stationed in the Xin Legion's camp 3 miles west of Dragon Slaying Pass. Can you two sleep? Lin Muyu asked. The two beauties shook their heads. Very good. I can't sleep either. Let's go to the Xin Legion. I want to see those weapons and equipment from outside the world. Okay, Xin Legion. Nighttime. 2 huge war chariots were parked between the tents. The searchlights at the front were constantly rotating and scanning the surroundings. On the chariots stood 2 soldiers armed with Origin submachine guns. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 silhouettes descended together. Who is it? Halt. The soldiers raised their guns vigilantly. The people inside the tents also rushed out with cold weapons or broken firearms in their hands. All of them looked nervously at the intruders. Under the illumination of the headlights, the figures of Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi appeared before everyone. So it's your majesty. The group of soldiers knelt down. Greetings, your majesty. Dispense with the formalities. Qin Yin raised her hand lightly. Go back to the tent and rest. I'm only here to visit. Yes. Qin Yin held Lin Muyu's hand. She smiled and said, all right, you can now examine these weapons and equipment. You can study any one of them in detail. Lin Muyu walked forward and said to one of the leaders, can I see your weapon? How could the leader refuse? He hurriedly handed it over and said, Your Majesty, be careful. This is a heavy Origin rifle with powerful firepower. When used by a monarch rank expert, 1 shot is enough to kill a saint. Oh. Lin Muyu took the heavy rifle and studied it carefully. This kind of gun was similar to the guns on Earth, but the magazine was completely different. She couldn't feel a bullet enter the chamber at all after loading it. She asked, what's going on? What's the principle behind it? The leader laughed. Your Majesty, this Origin energy gun is different from ordinary guns. It doesn't rely on gunpowder to propel it, but rather, it needs to be charged with Origin power. You only need to pour a small amount of your power into the butt of the gun to charge it, but with your Majesty's power, just a small amount is enough. Otherwise this gun will be useless. This leader had personally witnessed the battle between Lin Muyu and Bailey Qin, as well as the spectacular scene of Lin Muyu killing Fu Yu and Han Shu. The land of exile had always respected the strong, so he was naturally both respectful and fearful of Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu exerted force with one hand and slowly poured her supreme divine power into the Origin rifle. As expected, the charging mechanism in the magazine began to flicker and brighten up before Lin Muyu's power had even reached 5%. Your Majesty, that's enough. The leader was astonished. The Origin battery is about to explode. You can't go on. Oh. Lin Muyu returned the rifle to him and asked with a smile, do you know how to make this kind of rifle? I don't. The leader shook his head and said, this lowly one is just a mercenary from a remote star system. I only know how to use them, but I don't know how to maintain them. Oh. Lin Muyu was somewhat disappointed. She asked again, are there any mechanics in the army of exile? Mechanics? The leader was stunned. I think there's an old mechanic, but his strength is extremely low. He's practically a piece of trash. We've arranged for him to cook in the kitchen camp. His name is... This lowly one has forgotten. Lin Muyu looked as if she had obtained a treasure. She laughed in ecstasy and said, don't say anything else. Bring me to this mechanic immediately. Yes. He knew that the changes this mechanic could bring to the Shattered Cauldron realm might be equivalent to Qin Xiling's value. This mechanic in Qin Xiling, 2 mortals, could produce enough power to change the future of an entire plane. Chapter 9:13. Inside the kitchen, when almost all the banished army had fallen asleep, the kitchen was bustling with activity. Dozens of people were rapidly preparing the ingredients for breakfast the next day. The people from the banished land were like starving ghosts. They couldn't fill their stomachs in the banished land all year round. In the end, coming to the Shattered Cauldron realm was like going to heaven. The Southridge province was incomparably fertile, and there were countless resources. Every day they would eat white rice, meat buns, and meat dishes and soup until their bellies were round. Brats, go and carry that boar over. The old veteran shouted, cut open its intestines and marinate it. We'll start roasting it at midnight. Our brothers will be able to eat delicious marinated meat in the morning. The group of young soldiers nodded and went to carry the boar. These soldiers were all handsome and they could be considered pretty good-looking in the exile army. After all, they were the ones who cooked. If they were werewolves with scabies and ulcers all over their bodies, the food would probably be inedible. It was at this time that the leader opened the tent and walked in. "Hey, what's your name again? I heard you used to be a mechanic?" The veteran knelt down hurriedly. "This lowly one is called Roger, they call me Old Roger. May I know why the leader is looking for me? Is the food not to your taste?" "I'm not looking for you. Someone is looking for you." The leader frowned and stepped aside. The next moment, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi appeared in front of Old Roger. Old Roger was so excited that he almost breathed his last. He had seen the Dark Moon Queen more than once, but it was all from afar. He had never seen the Dark Moon Queen up close. He was so excited that he was about to explode. "This lowly Roger greets your majesty." He knelt down hurriedly and kowtowed repeatedly. Qin Yin closed her eyes and held Lin Muyu's hand with a smile. "No need to be so polite. I'm not the one looking for you. It's my big brother Yu who's looking for you." "It's your highness Yu." Old Roger kowtowed again. "May I know what your highness Yu needs?" Lin Muyu helped him up and said, "You don't have to be so polite. Logically speaking, I should call you an old driver." "Oh, that's not right. I should call you old master." Old Roger was flattered. "Your highness Yu, why are you looking for me? You're a mechanic?" "Yes, I've been a mechanic for a few years. During the Interstellar War, I followed the Federal Empire's fleet to battle once. But that time it was too tragic. We encountered an army led by 2 god emperors from the Northern Heaven realm. The entire fleet disappeared in an instant." "An entire interstellar fleet can't defeat 2 god emperors? Those are 2 god emperors above the 90th level of heaven. Godly state experts can also survive in the universe and don't have to worry about air. Furthermore, they can travel through space freely and can easily destroy our defense shield and avoid the attacks of the particle cannons. Even the laser plasma can't penetrate their god wall. All they need to do is to destroy the pressure system of each battleship and they can make us fall apart." Saying that, Old Roger sighed. "The gap between mortals and gods is impossible to measure." "What about thermonuclear weapons?" Lin Muyu thought of the trump cards of many powerful countries on Earth. Old Roger couldn't help but smile. "If your highness Yu thinks that thermonuclear weapons can penetrate the god wall, then you're lying to yourself. Moreover, the bodies of god state experts have been tempered and forged. Radiation is useless to them. But the technology of thermonuclear weapons is rarely achieved. How would your highness Yu know about it?" "My hometown is Earth, a planet in the Milky Way galaxy." "Earth?" Old Roger frowned. "I think I've heard of it. That galaxy is still in the middle stage of development. Because of its remote location, it has avoided all the galactic wars. What a lucky person. However, if your highness Yu really comes from Earth, then no one will dare to invade this planet in the future. Let's get back to business." Lin Muyu said, "I want you to help me improve these origin rifles and other weapons to deal with the Dragon Knights and the gods of the Western Divine Realm." Old Roger was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but smile. "Your highness Yu, this lowly one has also said that an entire fleet can't do anything to 2 god emperors. How can these mere origin rifles deal with the experts of the Western Divine Realm?" "That's because you don't know about the Demon Heart Stone." "Demon Heart Stone?" "Yes, the substance contained in this stone is the nemesis of god state experts. Once it enters the bloodline, it will restrict god power. This is what I want you to do. Extract the element from the Demon Heart Stone and add it to your firearms. Find a way to deal with the god state experts." As she spoke, Lin Muyu spread out her hands and smiled. "If you have any needs, just tell us. We will try our best to satisfy you." Old Roger frowned. "This lowly one can try, but I can't guarantee success. After all, the Shattered Cauldron Realm is still a low-level developed planet. Not to mention laser weapons, it doesn't even have a steam engine. To put it bluntly, I can't even build a reactor. I can only modify and improve our current weapons. It's hard to say whether it will succeed or not." "Yes, I understand." Lin Muyu nodded. "Let's go, I will bring you to meet the people of the Imperial Weapons Department. We will talk after you meet them." "Yes." The more than 100 people of the Weapons Department of the Eastern Capital, Winterfrost City, were completely preserved. In order to protect them, at least thousands of Imperial soldiers were sacrificed. However, Lin Muyu also knew that it was all worth it. For the safety of Qin Xiling and the others, it was worth it no matter how many people were sacrificed. Late at night, Lin Muyu introduced Old Roger to Qin Xiling. This made Qin Xiling feel as if he had obtained a treasure. In the middle of the night, he gathered all the officials of the weapons department for a meeting. Presumably they would not be able to sleep tonight. They worked until late at night, and when they finally finished it was almost dawn. Lin Muyu brought the two beauties back to the small courtyard to rest. As they walked slowly along the corridor, her mood was much more relaxed. She said with a smile, "The matter of the Ministry of National Defense has finally been settled. Next, it will depend on the results of the research." "What is the Ministry of National Defense? I don't understand." Tang Xiaoxi pouted. "You will understand in the future." Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "Everyone rest well. Wake up at noon. There may be new military intelligence sent from afar in the afternoon. After Linghan City is taken, we will go to Linghan City to rest for 2 days. Moreover, we will begin to gather troops and prepare to rush to Cangnan province." Yes. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye, and a letter flew to Dragon Slaying Pass. Under the siege of Su Jiantao, Linghan City, the capital of Ling Sky province, had finally been reclaimed and returned to the embrace of the empire. At noon, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi brought Terralin and the others to Linghan City. Before the three entered the city, they saw the soldiers under Su Jiantao maintaining order in the city. The entire east wall of Linghan City had been severely damaged, with many places collapsing. Even the entire east wall tower had been razed to the ground. Qin Yin's eyes slightly reddened. Back then the Kamsi Marquis Yao Yuan died tragically in battle here. He died at the hands of Duo La. Duo La? Lin Muyu's sword-like eyebrows were tightly locked. "This woman is also Luo Xian's murderer. Xiaoxi was almost injured by her hands. We must go and kill this vicious woman." "Yes," Qin Yin said with concern. "Your injuries have not fully healed yet. Let's talk about it after you have recovered." Duo La has 2 divine weapons in her hands. One is the Burgos spear, the other is the dagger of time. Both are very powerful. The Burgos spear can pierce through the god wall, and the dagger of time can control time. Before we have divine weapons of the same level, any one of us will be in danger against Duo La. "Yes." Tang Xiaoxi nodded. That Duo La can not only delay the opponent's movements in a small area, but she can also speed up her own attacks, making it impossible to defend against. "I have already suffered in her hands." Lin Muyu said, "Fortunately, Xiaoxi is fine. This Duo La, let's not talk about her. Let's enter the city." "Yes." Su Jiantao, Wei Chou, and the others were already kneeling outside the city. When Qin Yin led Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others into the city, the commoners of Linghan City also knelt together to pay their respects to the former empress. At this point in time, Qin Yin had already changed into a flowing cloud dress. Even though she wasn't wearing the empress's crown, she still gave off an unconcealable noble aura. Furthermore, Su Jiantao had already posted the announcement of the empress's arrival in the city. At this point in time, even the empire's generals who were adept at warfare were kneeling down. This was enough to show how noble this young lady's status was. Qin Yin closed her eyes and slowly walked on the main street of the city. She could faintly smell the stench of blood on the ground. The Blackstone Empire was cruel and tyrannical. She really didn't know how these commoners managed to survive under the rule of the Blackstone Empire for 2.5 months. "Greetings, Your Highness." All the generals and commoners shouted in unison. Qin Yin was slightly taken aback. She infused her divine power into her heavenly voice and said, "Everyone has suffered. The Qin family came late and caused everyone to suffer so much. But in the future it will not happen again. As long as the Qin family exists, Linghan City will exist." The commoners all kowtowed. Wei Chou led the warhorses in front and let Qin Yin, Lin Muyu, and the others get on. Otherwise it would probably take 2 hours to reach the governor's residence. However, Qin Yin didn't gallop wildly on the horse. Instead, she walked slowly and spent a full hour to reach the governor's residence. She knew that she had to let the commoners of Linghan City see her so that they would have hope again. The invaders had invaded and swallowed up half of the empire's territory. If there was no faith, no one would be able to continue working hard. Wei Chou urged his horse and followed closely beside Lin Muyu. He reported the situation of the battle. Xiang Yu's troops have already killed their way to Dongtian Prefecture and will soon reach the east coast. The Blackstone Empire has more than 200,000 soldiers, and it is already not bad if only 50,000 are left. Their era of rule in the Lingkong province is over. Good, very good. Did you set fire to their warships so that they have nowhere to go? No, your subordinate and Duke, you both miscalculated. We didn't think of this move. It's all right, I didn't think of it either. Lin Muyu rubbed her nose. Wei Chou grinned and didn't say anything. Chapter 9:14. In the afternoon, there was a continuous stream of news from outside the city, and the messengers were rushing around the warlord's residence. Your Highness, the warlord of Dongming County Jianghu, led 3,000 men to attack the defeated army of the Blackstone Empire and beheaded more than 100 people. He is here to pay his respects to Your Highness. Your Highness, the warlord of Huayao City Zhuge Tian, led 2,500 men to pay his respects to Your Highness. Your Highness, the farmer of Lu County Li Wanyan, led 800 villagers to kill the enemy and beheaded more than 50 people. He is here to pay his respects to Your Highness. In just a short afternoon after hearing that the Empress Qin Yin had appeared in Linghan City, troops from various states and counties appeared like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. However, before the great victory at Dragon Slaying Pass, these people remained silent. What exactly is going on? In the meeting hall, Qin Yin sat on the warlord's seat and asked with her eyes closed. Lin Muyu explained, previously because the enemy was too strong, we issued a decree that the officials of various states and counties could recruit their own soldiers to fight against the strong enemy. These people should be similar to the feudal lords, but I didn't expect that even a farmer could gather 800 soldiers to chase after the Blackstone Empire. Xiang Yu sneered at the side, who knows if those 50 heads were the enemy or innocent civilians. Your Highness, don't forget, after this decree was issued, many civilians became roving bandits. Lin Muyu was silent. Perhaps Xiang Yu's criticism was right. This decree had its advantages and disadvantages, just like the decree issued during the Yellow Turban Uprising at the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty. It saved the world, but it also caused it to fall apart. However, the Qin Empire was different. She still had a large number of main forces, and the monarch wasn't weak either. Wei Chou hurriedly walked in and said respectfully, Your Highness, almost all the feudal lords near Linкang province are here. There are a total of 14 routes with more than 5,000 soldiers and at least a few hundred soldiers. Do you want to meet them? Qin Yin asked. What do you think? Let's meet them. Lin Muyu nodded and said, we are currently short of soldiers. If we can make use of these people, that would be the best. All right. Qin Yin raised her hand and said, bring them here, Duke Wei. Yes, Your Highness. Not long after, more than a dozen feudal lords appeared outside the main door of the meeting hall. Some of them were wearing the Empire's official robes and armor. Some of them were wearing armor that was made at the last minute, and the most unbearable of them was wearing brocade. However, their faces were sunburned, and it was obvious that they were the leaders of the peasants. This group of more than a dozen people had never seen the Empress before, and they were somewhat at a loss as to what to do. Xiang Yu raised his eyebrows and asked, can't you pay your respects to the Empress? Everyone knelt down one after another. Your subjects/commoners kowtow to Your Highness. You may rise. The corners of Qin Yin's mouth curled up and she said with a smile, my lords, your contributions will be recorded in the book, and when we have completely recovered the Linкang province, we will naturally reward you. But now, the Empire is in need of manpower, so I wonder if your troops are willing to be incorporated into the various legions? Oh, I see. Qin Yin nodded and said with a smile, Your Highness, I am the governor of Dongming Prefecture, Jianghu. The bandits of the Blackstone Empire have plundered Dongming Prefecture like a gale sweeping away fallen leaves, and the people in the city have suffered greatly. The 3,000 soldiers that I have recruited are all new soldiers, and they are also the soldiers of Dongming Prefecture. When I was recruiting them, I promised that they would only fight to defend the city, so they are not real soldiers. If I want to recruit them, I will have to ask for their opinions. I hope that Your Highness can understand. Oh, I see. Qin Yin nodded. Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, Zhang Han, Her Highness is the ruler of Great Qin. Does she still need to listen to his opinion on who she wants to use as soldiers? Isn't it the greatest honor for every adult man in the Empire to fight for Her Highness on the battlefield? Why don't you bring all your men into the city? I want to ask them personally if they are willing to serve Her Highness. Zhang Han was stunned. You are, Wei Chou said coldly, he is His Highness King Qin. Zhang Han hurriedly knelt down and said, I pay my respects to His Highness King Qin. I just feel that I should consult the soldiers for their own opinions. I have no other intentions. Please forgive me, Your Highness. Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, I know that it is not easy for you to recruit soldiers, so I will not force you. Let's do it this way. The troops of all the feudal vassals in Lingang province will be gathered together to form a garrison of Lingang province. The feudal vassals will also be promoted based on the troops that they have recruited. You will still be able to bring the troops that you have recruited and serve the empire. What do you think? Zhang Han nodded repeatedly. I am willing to listen to your highness and her highness's arrangements. Lin Muyu swept her gaze across the rest of the feudal vassals. One after another, they knelt down and said, "We are willing to listen to your highness's arrangements." That's good. Lin Muyu looked at Wei Chou and said, "In that case, I will leave the matter of reorganizing the garrison of Lingang province to Duke Wei. Duke Wei will also serve as the temporary commander of this new army. As for the Longdan army camp, I will personally lead it." Wei Chou nodded and smiled. "Yes, your highness." Now that Qin Yin had returned, Lin Muyu could finally take the time to lead the troops herself. It was also very suitable to appoint Wei Chou as the commander of this new army. Wei Chou was a famous general of the empire and had many successful battles. In terms of prestige and ability to lead troops, he was also one of the best in the empire. He was able to convince the masses and had the ability to lead a new army. Tang Xiaoxi smiled at the side and said, "Let's wait here for a few more days. Based on the current situation, there will definitely be many feudal vassals rushing over from all over Lingang province within 3 days." Yes. Qin Yi nodded and smiled. Su Jiantao said, "These bastards. I don't see them usually, but when it is time to ask for rewards they all appear." Zhen Yifan laughed heartily. The prefects and city lords of the various prefectures and commanderies usually don't have much military power. This time they're taking the opportunity of the imperial edict to make more contributions and think about their future. It's actually quite normal. Su'er also nodded and said, "Yes, that's right." Lin Muyu slowly sat down and said with a cold gaze, "As long as these people don't cause trouble, then everything can be discussed. Wei Chou, you must appease the people's hearts. These feudal vassals all have different thoughts. You must intimidate them and win over the people's hearts at the same time. Right now we still have 400,000 enemies from the Qinji Empire, so we can't let anything happen at the back." "Yes, your highness," this subordinate understands. Wei Chou cupped his fists and smiled. Then this subordinate will lead the guards out of the city to appease the feudal vassals, and arrange camps and provisions for them. "Yes, go. Be careful." Yes. 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. The various feudal vassals from the Ling Sky province, Lingnan province, and Mingshan province all rushed over upon hearing the news and gathered in Linghan city. Outside the city there was a majestic camp. Although most of them were new soldiers, there were at least 40 feudal vassals and several tens of thousands of soldiers. This made Wei Chou extremely happy. After a series of bloody battles, the Courage Dragon camp was only left with 13,000 soldiers. But in the blink of an eye, so many new soldiers had arrived. The opportunity to replenish the soldiers had arrived. Inside the meeting hall, everyone was drinking afternoon tea. "How many soldiers are there in total?" Lin Muyu looked at the name list and asked. Wei Chou said happily, "So far there are more than 74,000 soldiers. I estimate that there are still tens of thousands of soldiers on the way." Zheng Yifan smiled. "Congratulations, Duke Wei. The garrison army has just been established, but it already has more than 100,000 soldiers. Speaking of which, in terms of numbers, it can already be considered the #1 army of the empire." Wei Chou said helplessly, "Why must Lord Fan make fun of me? I'm afraid that the combat strength of these 100,000 soldiers cannot even compare to the 10,000 infantry and cavalry of the Longdan army camp." At this moment, a civil official walked in with a thick booklet in his hand and he said, "The Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Revenue, Jiang Chong, greets your Highness Yin." "Rise, speak." "Yes." Jiang Chong placed the register on the table and flipped to the first page with a trembling hand. He said, "The Ministry of Revenue has done a rough count. Last year the Lingang province had a total of 5 million households. Assuming that each household has 8 members, the total population is 40 million. We started counting from a month ago, and the current number of households is only about 3,300,000. When the Blackstone bandits came, many of the commoners were killed, captured, or hid in the mountains and forests. Nearly half of the population was lost, and the feudal lords forcefully conscripted the commoners. Now the Lingang province can be said to be 100 things waiting to be done, and the farmland is barren. Your Highness, please rule the country with benevolence and pardon the taxes of the Lingang province for 3 years." Qin Yin was surprised and she lightly touched Tang Xiaoxi's hand, asking for help. After all, Qin Yin had been away from the Shattered Cauldron realm for too long, and there were many things that she didn't understand, so she couldn't make a rash decision. Tang Xiaoxi stood up and said, "Her Highness the Empress has decreed that all the commoners in the Lingang province will be exempted from taxes for 1 year, and the rewards for reclaiming land will be increased. For every mu of land reclaimed, the reward will be 5 silver kin coins, and the reward will be given by the local officials. The Ministry of Personnel is also ordered to investigate corruption, and anyone who embezzles or hides official funds will be beheaded if the amount exceeds 10,000 gold kin coins, exiled if the amount exceeds 2,000 gold kin coins, dismissed if the amount exceeds 500 gold kin coins, and whipped 100 times if the amount exceeds 500 gold kin coins. Ministry of Personnel, record down all my words and immediately issue the decree, and execute it immediately." "Yes, Princess Shi." Tang Xiaoxi lowered her head and whispered into Qin Yin's ear, "Is this appropriate?" Qin Yin also nodded and smiled, "That's exactly what I wanted." Another 2 days later, the last remnants of the Pale Flame Army and Sea Mountain Army also plundered the fishermen's boats and escaped to the East Sea. Whisker Port was a piece of barren land, and the Empire's navy was almost completely wiped out. They were powerless to chase after them and could only let them escape. Within these 2 days, just as everyone expected, the garrison of the Lingang province had already expanded to 100,000 people. However, Weiqiu was deeply worried. These 100,000 people were formed by more than 70 feudal vassals, and there were also many contradictions between the various battalions. The people from the east of the river looked down on the people from the west of the river, and the people from the north of the mountain looked down on the people from the south of the mountain. It was simply a fantasy for them to have the same combat power as the Longdan army camp. Chapter 9:15. In the eastern sea, water splashed violently. Although there was almost no wind, waves at least 2 meters high rose from the surface of the sea and crashed continuously against the Blackstone Empire's warships. As for the fishermen's boats, they were bobbing up and down in the water like withered leaves, ready to capsize at any moment. It was an extremely frightening scene. There were a total of 400 large warships, but they were carrying less than half of their full capacity. This also meant that the Blackstone Empire's expeditionary army had less than 60,000 soldiers. On the dragon-headed warship, a group of warriors in blood-stained armor sat dejectedly, their faces full of confusion. "We have failed the Emperor's grace." At one end of the deck, a general wearing a commander's insignia was ashen. His arm was crisscrossed with sword wounds, and he suddenly drew his sword and slashed it across his neck. "Don't, Lord Commander." A deputy hurriedly pressed down on his arm and said tearfully, "We're soldiers. Victory and defeat are commonplace. You're the highest commander of the 3 armies. How can you commit suicide?" All the generals were overwhelmed with shock and hurriedly knelt down. "That's right, Commander Lu Yan. You're the highest-ranked commander of the 3 armies. You definitely can't abandon us." Lu Yan was the commander of the Seagull Legion and held the same rank as Fu Yu. It was just that the Seagull Legion's strength was inferior to the Ashen Flame armies, so it was often looked down upon. But now the expeditionary army had failed at the last moment. Fu Yu, Han Shu, and even the martial god Bailey Qin had died in battle on Great Qin's soil. Once Lu Yan returned from this trip, he would definitely be sent to the military law office and punished as a loser. Emperor Shi Yuan's temperament was violent and cruel. He probably wouldn't allow Lu Yan to continue living. After all, he wasn't the cream of the crop in terms of command and strength. On the side, the young scholar said, "Commander Lu Yan, if you die, we'll be a group of dragons without a leader. Please continue to lead us for the sake of the Empire and so many soldiers." This scholar was Bailey Yan, Bailey Qin's descendant. What else could Lu Yan say if even Bailey Yan had said that? The marshal died in battle. "Does Mr. Yan not blame me?" Lu Yan asked with bloodshot eyes. Bailey Yan shook his head. "The ancestor died in battle because the opponent was too strong. Now it has been confirmed that Xin is the Empress Qin Yin who has disappeared for many years in the Qin Empire. The Western Heaven Realm made a very outrageous move and sent the strongest enemy here. The fault lies in the Divine Realm, not us. Please don't blame yourself." "What should we do now?" Lu Yan asked weakly. Bailey Yan was a counselor of the 3 armies. But in the face of the many wonderful strategies of the famous generals of the Qin Empire, Bailey Yan's confidence had been shattered half a month ago. How could he have any ideas? Just then, the roar of a giant dragon came from the distant sky. Everyone immediately became solemn, and the fallen soldiers all raised their weapons in a defensive posture. The clouds dispersed, and a giant dragon appeared in front of them. It slowly descended. When Lu Yen saw the bear-shaped battle flag on the neck of the giant dragon, he breathed a sigh of relief and walked forward. "Commander Lu Yen of the Sea and Mountain Army is here." The giant dragon landed on the deck with a loud bang. The dragon knight on the dragon's back lifted his helmet, revealing a handsome face. "So it's Commander Lu Yan's ship." "That's great." "It's Lord Fu Yun?" Lu Yen was shocked. Fu Yun smiled slightly. "His Majesty just received news of the expeditionary army, so he sent me with 20 dragon knights to assist in the battle." "I heard the expeditionary army suffered a crushing defeat?" "Marshal Bailey Qin died in battle, and even your brother, Commander Fu Yu." "I got it." Fu Yun's face was a little pale. His body swayed slightly on the dragon's back, but he immediately regained his composure. He held the dragon sword in one hand and reached into his bosom with the other, pulling out an edict. "His Majesty's edict, Commander Lu Yen, please receive the edict." "Your subject accepts the edict. Immediately order Lu Yen not to return to the army. Lead the rest of the troops to the wilderness south of the Lingang province and continue to expand the territory for the empire. If you don't reclaim the land of Lingnan, you are not to return." Lu Yen was slightly stunned. "Our army only has 50,000 to 60,000 soldiers left. How can we fight against Lin Muyu's army of more than 100,000 soldiers? His Majesty is sending us to our deaths." "How can that be?" Fu Yun said faintly. "His Majesty has sent me to assist you. Besides, the Tianji Empire's army of 300,000 is currently attacking the steel wall at Lingbei. If nothing goes wrong, Lin Muyu and Qin Yin's army will soon leave Lingbei and head towards the steel wall to participate in the battle. When that time comes, won't it be a great opportunity for us to take back Lingang province? But our troops are still. Please do not question His Majesty's decision." Fu Yun laughed. "His Majesty has already issued a royal decree, calling for the various mercenary groups within the Empire's borders to participate in the war, entering the Sky Province to seize cities and plunder land. At this moment, there are at least 1,000 warships behind me, and none of these mercenary leaders are people to be trifled with. Commander should also know that. But if we let these mercenaries seize the city, they will definitely establish themselves as kings. It will not help us at all. Commander, you don't understand. The purpose of the mercenaries is only to deplete the strength of the Qin army. Our real goal should be more long-term, such as the Qin family's capital, Lanyan City." "Ah." Lu Yen was startled and nodded slightly. "I think I understand. Then what are you waiting for?" "All right." Lu Yen stood up straight and said with a loud voice, "Immediately send the order, turn the ship around and head for the coast 200 miles south of the Lingang province to find a way out. Further south of the southern border of the Lingang province, 100 miles of dense forest covered the area. There were tigers, pythons, poisonous insects and so on in the forest. It was difficult for ordinary people to reach. It was also because of the existence of this natural barrier that the Empire's territory did not continue to expand further south. But there were still human beings in the south, the Southern Wasteland Tribe. In the eyes of the people of the Empire, the Southern Wasteland Tribe was also known as the Southern Barbarians. They were a group of completely uncivilized races. They did not even know how to plant crops, they did not even know how to start a fire. They still lived a life of eating raw meat and drinking blood. But at this time in the Southern Wasteland Tribe, there was smoke rising from the chimneys. Tens of miles of plains were filled with smoke. The Southern Barbarians, who were dressed in animal skins, were full of smiles. They had already tasted the wonderful taste brought by the fire. Cooked meat must be much more delicious than raw meat. Elder Lu. Elder Lu. The clansmen surrounded the bonfire and danced an ancient totem dance. The chiefs of more than a dozen large tribes of the Southern Wasteland Tribe gathered here. Their faces were full of joy. They shouted Elder Lu to an old man in the middle. In their language, this meant Holy Lord. The old man was wearing a king's robe. His face was full of smiles. He stroked his beard and smiled without saying a word. He was none other than the commander-in-chief of the Iha country, Qin Yi. And at this time, Qin Yi seemed to have integrated with the life of the Southern Wasteland Tribe. Behind Qin Yi, a group of subordinates of the Iha country were full of smiles. Only Qin Huan was muttering to himself without saying a word. He was holding a clumsily made wine cup in his hand. He looked sullen. A general walked over and said with a smile, "Your Highness, Everyone is celebrating this grand ceremony. Why are you sullen alone? Qin Huan sneered. He looked at a group of naked southern barbarian girls who were dancing in the distance and said, "We brought fire and seeds to these barbarians. We taught them how to farm, but they still yearn for peace. They want to live here quietly. They are still unwilling to agree to send troops to help us. They are really a group of ungrateful dogs." Shuh. The general hurriedly made a shushing gesture and said, "Don't let their prophet who knows the language of the Central Plains hear you. This matter needs to be discussed at length. After all, we have just arrived. Not to mention eating and living in other people's houses. Now that the commander-in-chief has just been worshipped as the Holy Lord by the southern barbarians, isn't it only a matter of time before the 18 clans send troops? Don't be fooled by their unattractive appearance. Their youths are full of vigor and strength. Once they put on their armor and pick up their weapons with a little training, they will become invincible elite soldiers. The youths of these 18 clans add up to 2 million. What a terrifying army it is." "I don't think so. None of those old things are willing to work for our Iha country." As he said this, Qin Huan suddenly changed the topic and asked, "I heard, there is news from the Lingnan that Qin Yin has been resurrected, and that Ding Shi is not dead. Instead, he has pledged his loyalty to Qin Yin. Is this true?" "Most likely. Humph, that old dog Ding Shi is truly despicable and shameless. Our Iha country has treated him so well, but he actually faked his death and has now pledged his loyalty to Qin Yin. What a shameless bastard. To think that Imperial Father even planned to build the Lingnan Loyalty Monument and carve his name in the first place." The general was stunned and said, "I think Commander Ding must have his own difficulties?" "Don't call him Commander Ding, he is not worthy." "Yes, this subordinate knows his mistake." Just as the celebration was going on, a Warhawk scout suddenly descended from the sky in the distance. He looked like he was on the verge of collapse and his face was full of panic. He scrambled into the crowd and said, "Commander-in-Chief, something bad has happened. Commander-in-Chief, something bad has happened." "What's going on?" Qin Yi turned around and asked. The scout hurriedly knelt down and said, "Many warships have appeared on the southern coast. They are the warships of the Blackstone Empire. There are flags of the Ashen Flame Army and the Sea Mountain Army. The total number of soldiers seems to be at least 50,000, and there is also a Dragon Knight Legion following them. They are less than 50 kilometers away from us." "What, 50 kilometers?" Qin Yi suddenly stood up and sneered, "It seems like they are coming for us. However, a mere 50,000 soldiers want to contend against the 150,000 soldiers of our Iha nation? Who will go and fight?" The generals all kept quiet out of fear and no one said anything. Even Ding Shi and Long Qianlin had been defeated, so who would have the confidence to defeat the Blackstone Empire's army? Even if it was a ratio of 3 to 1, no one had the confidence to do so. Finally, Qin Huan stood up from the crowd and cupped his fists, saying, "Imperial Father, since no one is willing to go, this child is willing to lead the army." Qin Yi frowned and couldn't help but feel a wave of sorrow in his heart. With Ding Shi and Long Qianlin dead, the Iha nation actually didn't have any more useful generals. The few remaining generals hadn't fought in any major battles and weren't useful at all. It seemed like only this son of his had experienced a true war, but no one knew a son better than a father. Qin Yi knew that Qin Huan was proud and arrogant, but he didn't have any real ability. "Forget it, I will personally lead the army." Qin Yi lightly waved his hand and said, "Three armies, listen up. Prepare for battle. We will fight against the Blackstone Empire's army on Zilu Plains." Elder Lu. Elder Lu. Behind him, the clansmen of the southern desolate tribe all praised him, but Qin Yi couldn't say anything. Chapter 9:16. Empire Calendar, Year 7742, on the Zilu plain of the southern barbarian land, the sound of horse hooves resounded through the 9 heavens. The overwhelming army of the Iha Empire began to meet the enemy, and the enemy was the army of the Blackstone Empire that came from the sea. Banners fluttered in the wind, and Lu Yen also began to arrange his troops. Both sides were like two colorful clouds that would soon collide. Roar, roar, roar. In the sky, the roars of dragons were incessant. The Blackstone Empire had dispatched 60,000 troops, of which 10,000 were beast cavalrymen, mainly tiger leopard cavalrymen. In addition, there were 20 dragon cavalrymen supporting them. Qin Yi stood on the war chariot as he looked from afar at the appearance of the enemy army in the distance, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It wasn't luck that the Darkstone Empire's army was able to defeat famous generals like Ding Shi and Long Qianlin, and they could indeed be called an elite army. However, an elite army like this with a force of 200,000 was still defeated at the hands of Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. It was extremely difficult to imagine exactly what sort of freaks these two foster nephews and nieces of mine were to even be able to defeat an army like this. The enemy was too strong. Qin Yi couldn't help but waver. Was the plan of his people really worth it? So many people had died, but in the end, the gap between him and the enemy was getting wider and wider. Commander? A general holding a saber turned to look at Qin Yi, seeking his opinion. Qin Yi gently nodded and said, "Let's fight." Yes. He raised his saber high and shouted, "Let's fight." The war drums thundered, and the tens of thousands of cavalry of the Iha Empire launched an attack, charging straight at the enemy's phalanx. At the same time, the army of the Blackstone Empire also launched an attack. Countless dragon cavalrymen and tiger leopard cavalrymen roared as they charged. The ground was in chaos. Both sides stood together, and it was impossible to distinguish between them. The only thing that could be seen was the dragon cavalrymen continuously spewing flames in the air, as well as the roars of the tiger leopard cavalrymen. Tiger leopard cavalrymen were a type of predator-level existence, and warhorses were originally the prey of tigers and leopards. How could they withstand the intimidation? One by one, the Iha Empire cavalry no longer dashed forward, and in the blink of an eye, their heads were chopped off by the tiger leopard cavalrymen. Their severed necks sprayed hot blood, and one life after another disappeared in this southern wasteland. This battle continued from dawn until dusk, and in the end, both sides withdrew their troops hastily. The Darkstone Empire's army still maintained a practically perfect formation as they withdrew from the battlefield of Zilu Plains, but the front, middle, left and right armies of the Iha Empire had suffered severe losses. The ground was covered in corpses and most of them were the soldiers of the Iha Empire. Night fell and dew continuously dripped from the branches. Qin Yi looked at King Cavalryman, and he of King that the Empire. Of King Qin Dynasty. Plain. Of Realm. Of a dynasty kingdom immediately and help me back, Qin Yi said weakly. Of 50 kilometers to the west of Zilu Plain, the Iha nation's crude tents stretched for nearly 10 kilometers, and Qin Yi's tent was in the center. Qin Yi heaved a sigh of relief after entering the tent. The oppressive feeling of death had almost suffocated him. It had been too long since he had experienced such a battle, so much so that Qin Yi felt that the scene during the day was like a nightmare. Before long the Iha Empire returned. Of course, there were some who didn't return, but at least Qin Huan returned. Qin Yi couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. After a long time, the tent was full of Iha Empire returned. Qin Yi sat there quietly. The meat and vegetables in the golden cauldron on the table had already cooled, but he didn't even move his chopsticks. At this moment he didn't have any appetite. "They're all back?" Qin Yi asked. "Yes, Commander. They're all back." A general cupped his fists and said, "Except for those who couldn't." "What about the corpses? Are they done counting?" "They're done." A general with a full beard said, "Commander, do you want to hear it?" "Speak." The clerk who collected the corpses reported that our army lost more than 30,000 men, and 30,000 are missing. According to the accounts of the soldiers who left, we killed more than 20,000 enemy soldiers, and killed nearly 10 dragon riders. His voice trembled slightly. "Is that so?" Qin Yi raised his head, his eyes slightly red and said, "I don't want to listen to your clichés. I want to hear the real numbers. How many corpses were there in total?" Reporting to Commander, the corpse collection team reported, they received a total of 63,500 corpses from our army. What about them? The Blackstone Empire left behind 5,240 corpses. The other 10,000 corpses should have been taken away by them. Bullshit. Qin Yi slammed the table and stood up, roaring angrily, "Do you all think I'm blind? I saw it clearly. The Blackstone Empire didn't take away a single corpse. They only used 5,000 people to exchange for nearly half of our army. Nearly half. Even if you're all scarecrows, how could you let them kill so many people in a day? Soldiers are trained for 1,000 days to be used in a single day. Is this how you repay the Iha Empire? Don't you all usually claim to be veterans of hundreds of battles, possessing both courage and wisdom? What happened now? In front of the Blackstone Empire's army, you're like 3-year-old children, unable to withstand a single blow. Unable to withstand a single blow." As he spoke, Qin Yi's body suddenly trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Commander." Imperial Father. Qin Huan and the others hurriedly stepped forward to support Qin Yi. He seemed to be in a state of panic. This general is incompetent. All the generals uniformly knelt on the ground, but this was how war was. In the face of such a great disparity in strength, they could only accept their fate. After a long while, Qin Yi finally caught his breath and slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was somewhat blurry as he said, I really miss my Commander Long and Commander Ding. Why does the heavens treat me like this? Qin Huan, all the generals were speechless. True famous generals were naturally talented and unconventional. Every one of them wanted to become a famous general of their generation, but the majority of them could only become stepping stones for famous generals. The next morning, Qin Yi slowly woke up, but he heard hurried footsteps outside the tent. That person was pacing back and forth. Who's outside? Reporting to Commander, it's General Zhao De. Let him in. Yes. Zhao De opened the tent flap and entered. His expression was somewhat ugly as he said, Commander, the Blackstone Empire has sent an envoy. He says he wants to discuss matters with you. Qin Yi said, what kind of person did they send? A dragon rider general named Fu Yun. Why does this name sound so familiar? His elder brother is Fu Yu of the Blue Flame Army, the person who killed Commander Long. Preposterous. Commander, please calm down. Do you want to see this person or not? Bring him to the central tent. I'll be right there. Yes. In the central tent, Fu Yun had already handed his sword to a general of the nominal nation of peace, but his entire person was still dignified and imposing, standing in the center of the tent like a mountain. This kind of aura was not something an ordinary person could have. Only someone with absolute confidence and strength could exude such an aura. When Qin Yi, Qin Huan, and the others entered the tent, Fu Yun cupped his hands and smiled. Blackstone Empire's envoy, Fu Yun, pays his respects to your highness, Commander. Qin Yi slowly sat down and raised his hand. Dispense with the formalities. Come have a seat. No need. Fu Yun said, the Blackstone Empire soldiers are used to standing. Many thanks for Commander's kind intentions. May I know why Lord Fu Yun has come this time? Qin Yi asked. Naturally, it's for the good of both our armies. Fu Yun smiled and said, our Blackstone Empire and Iha Nation have a common enemy, and that is Qin Yin and Lin Muyu. So why should we fight to the death here? My goal this time is to form an alliance with Iha Nation. In addition, I'll also form an alliance with the 18 tribes here. Qin Huan couldn't help but say angrily, yesterday was a battle to the death, and today you want to form an alliance? Fu Yun, aren't you going too far? We still haven't settled the matter of you killing my Iha Nation's Commander Long. Fu Yun raised his brows. You must be young, Master Qin Huan? As expected, heroes come from the young. But you're not young anymore. You've suffered so many losses at the hands of famous generals like Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing, but you still haven't learned your lesson. Why haven't you learned how to speak human language? You. Qin Huan was furious and was about to draw his sword. Fu Yun smiled faintly. Do you want to fight? Don't think that I'm afraid of you just because I came alone. It's not that I look down on Iha Nation, but none of you can keep me here. If you don't believe me, you can try. But the result will be your destruction. In less than 2 days, my Blackstone Empire's army will bathe this place in blood. The veins on Qin Yi's forehead throbbed. Lord Fu Yun, since you're here as an envoy, there's no need to be so angry. Let's talk about the details of our cooperation. Ha, Commander is a wise man. Fu Yun said, it's very simple. We'll establish an alliance and choose a day to set out on the northern expedition. The Iha Nation will attack the Bright Mountain Province, while our army will attack the Lingkong Province. This will catch the Qin army off guard. In addition, Commander is the landlord of this place. I want to recruit soldiers here. I'll only leave after I get at least 100,000 soldiers. As for armor and weapons, Commander will need to provide them for my new army. What did you say? General Zhao Da's face was full of anger. You want us to provide the equipment for 100,000 soldiers? You're clearly trying to rip us off. Fu Yun, what do you mean by that? Fu Yun smiled faintly. Why do your words sound so unpleasant? This is assistance between allies. It can't be considered ripping us off, right? Commander, everything depends on your discretion. Qin Yi's face paled. He knew that Fu Yun was the kind of person who would do what he said. How could he not lower his head when under low eaves? Being extorted for 100,000 sets of equipment was much better than being completely wiped out. 100,000 sets, so be it. Qin Yi muttered. I hope that Lord Fu Yun will restrain your army when you return. You must not offend my Iha nation's army. Otherwise, this alliance will cease to exist. Yes, I'll definitely do as you say. Fu Yun respectfully clasped his hands and said, I wonder when the new soldiers and equipment will be ready? I'll send someone to collect them. These need to be prepared slowly. No, it can't be slow. You must select 20,000 new soldiers and 20,000 sets of equipment every day. I'll send someone to collect them. Commander, you must do this. Fu Yun raised his eyebrows and smiled. This is the condition of our alliance. It's not negotiable. Qin Yi's eyelids twitched. I understand. Lord, please return. Thank you, Commander. When Fu Yun walked out of the tent, everyone was in an uproar. Bandits. They're practically bandits. Despicable people from the Blackstone Empire. Why don't they just die? Commander, you absolutely cannot agree to this. The dignity of the Iha nation is about to be gone. Qin Yi swayed as he walked out of the tent. Suddenly he fainted. Chapter 9:17. On the 4th of July, the north started to heat up. Muyu City was officially reclaimed and returned to the Qin version. Feng Jixing, Qin Xiaoli and the others chased them all the way and chased the remaining 50,000 Longji army into the 8 wastelands. They left 50,000 troops to defend the border while the other 100,000 returned to Muyu City. At the same time, Feng Jixing didn't let Big Wolf Lord Mao Dun and the remaining 50,000 wolf soldiers go. In the middle of the night, the sound of cicadas swept through the camp in the wilderness. The candlelight flickered and Feng Jixing put down the book in his hand. He frowned. Who is it? Come in. It is me, Your Highness. The one who walked in was Luo Yu, one of the deputy commanders of the Imperial Army and one of Feng Jixing's most capable generals. It is so late, what is it? Feng Jixing asked. Luo Yu had a nervous expression as she said, Your Highness, we've already followed your orders. All 50,000 wolf soldiers have been arranged to set up camp in a valley 3 miles away. The weather is hot and dry now, so as long as we seal off all the exits, we can burn all the wolf soldiers to ashes. But, do we really want to do that? What are you hesitating for, Luo Yu? Feng Jixing smiled and asked. Luo Yu stood on the spot and cupped her fists. Your Highness, there are things a man should do and not do. If we kill the 50,000 wolf soldiers now, it is not what a famous general would do. At least if Your Highness Yu was here, he definitely wouldn't do that. What a famous general would do. Feng Jixing stood up and his duke's cape fluttered behind him. He smiled. Luo Yu, do you know what a famous general would do? If the 50,000 wolf soldiers return to the northern desert, Mao Dun will definitely regroup. In less than 5 years, he will be able to gather another 100,000 wolf soldiers. Every year, the wolf soldiers will go south to plunder the border cities of Cloud Province and Seven Seas Province. Every year, at least 200,000 people die under the iron hooves of the wolf soldiers. Cities are turned into ghost towns and people are plunged into misery and suffering. Compared to that, I think killing 50,000 wolf soldiers is not a big deal. But Your Highness. Luo Yu knelt down and said, Did Your Highness forget about the 30,000 Imperial Army brothers that were killed in Fire Badger Valley? How similar was the situation today? Since Your Highness has promised the Big Wolf Lord to release them, you should fulfill your promise. After all, you are the king and your words carry enormous weight. Feng Jixing's gaze turned cold, and an ice-cold divine power spread out in all directions, causing Luo Yu to feel as though she had fallen into an ice cave. Luo Yu, aren't you being too impudent? Feng Jixing coldly asked. This subordinate doesn't dare, this subordinate just. Luo Yu almost couldn't breathe, he couldn't help but kowtow. This subordinate knows his mistake, please calm your anger, this subordinate, enough. Feng Jixing raised his arm and said, The wolf tribe of the northern desert has always been our mortal enemy. They have invaded the south time and time again, making use of their cavalry and nomadic nature to catch us off guard. Ever since the King of Light ascended to the throne, the northern desert has killed countless soldiers and civilians of our empire. Why should we be merciful to such enemies? Killing 50,000 people can save 10 times or even 100 times more people. As he said that, he looked at Luo Yu with a deep gaze. Do it? I, Feng Jixing, will take responsibility for this sin. What you have to do is kill none of them. I can't allow any wolf soldier to return to the northern desert. I have to uproot Mao Dun's power from the northern desert. I want the northern desert to not dare to invade the empire for 100 years. Luo Yu raised her head. only to see Feng Jixing's lonely silhouette. He needed understanding and support, yet her right-hand man was actually singing a different tune at this moment. Your Highness, why don't you let Zhang Wei handle this? Zhang Wei, he is too impulsive. If we let him handle this, it will only make him more vicious. You are different. Feng Jixing looked deeply at Luo Yu and said, on the path of a general, your path is even further than Zhang Wei's. This is a form of training for you. Remember, as you said, there are things that a man can do and things that he can't. You and I are both generals of the army. When we sit in this position, we can no longer do as we please. There are some things that we must take responsibility for, even if it means being cursed for thousands of years. Luo Yu was taken aback. She nodded and said, don't worry, Your Highness. I will definitely handle this well. Even if it means being cursed, I will bear it with Your Highness. Aha, go. Yes. That night, in a valley not far from the Imperial Army's camp, flames rose into the sky. Not only did the Imperial Army use materials to ignite the fire, they also used mid-grade heavenly tomes and magic crystal crossbows. The army surrounded the valley and set it on fire. In the blink of an eye, the Wolf Army's camp had become a living hell. The light from the flames shone on Luo Yu's handsome face. He placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and stood there like a towering mountain. He raised his arm and said, they are coming up. Release the arrows. A group of badly burned wolf soldiers struggled to climb up the hill, but in the blink of an eye, they were turned into porcupines. Pools of blood flowed in the flames, and countless wolf soldiers let out mournful howls that moved people's countenance. Amidst the crowd, a warhorse galloped recklessly. It was Big Wolf Lord Morden's warhorse. Ever since he had submitted to the wind, almost all of the wolf soldiers' warhorses had been taken away. Only the Big Wolf Lord and a few others were still able to keep their warhorses. Morden's warhorse was a desert thousandly horse. Almost all of its fur had been burned off, but it still galloped as if it was flying. It neighed loudly as it charged out of the burning camp, straight to the edge of the valley and shouted, why? Mao Dun roared, why? Feng Jixing, you said that you would spare our wolf tribe, why are you doing this to us? On the mountain ridge, Luo Yu said in a clear voice, Great Wolf Chieftain, please forgive us. We have our reasons to kill you. Your tribe is a wolf, a tiger. We have no reason to let the tiger return to the mountain. Luo Yu, you bastard. Mao Dun pointed his horsewhip at Luo Yu and roared, you and Feng Jixing are both bastards. I curse you. I, Mao Dun, curse that you will die a horrible death. You will die by my sword, you bastards. Luo Yu couldn't bear to watch. She waved her hand and said, kill him. Take his head and follow me to His Highness. Arrows flew everywhere. In the blink of an eye, Mao Dun, the great wolf chieftain of the northern desert, became a porcupine and fell in a pool of blood. Not far away in the forest, a man in a black robe trembled. It was Guanxing. After witnessing great wolf chieftain Mao Dun's death, he was completely stunned. Mr. Guanxing, why are you here? Luo Yu had already sensed Guanxing's aura. She waved her hand and two soldiers immediately invited Guanxing over. Luo Yu squinted her eyes and smiled. If I remember correctly, tonight's operation is top secret. Even the advisor group doesn't have the right to know about it. Why are you here, Mr. Guanxing? Guanxing's face was ashen. He said in a daze, I knew this would happen. I knew this would happen. Knew what? How could a hero like His Highness Feng Jixing do something as foolish as letting a tiger back into the mountains? I knew that he wouldn't let the wolf soldiers live. I should have known that this day would come. So that's how it is. Luo Yu smiled and got on the horse. She leaned over and looked at Guanxing's face. Suddenly she patted his shoulder and said, but don't worry. You're from Qin and not from the wolf tribe. As the saying goes, those who aren't from our tribe will surely have different intentions. Since His Highness Prince Xian has decided to use you, then he'll definitely use you. He won't doubt you in the slightest. Thank you, get on the horse. Follow me to meet His Highness and hand in the order. Yes. It was already past midnight. Flames soared into the sky in the distance. The massacre had gone on for close to 4 hours. Feng Jixing raised his head and looked into the distance, not feeling sleepy at all. The sound of horse hooves grew closer. Luo Yu had returned. The guard at the side was holding a human head in his hand. It was the head of Great Wolf Chieftain Mao Dun. It had just been chopped off not long ago. Your Highness, I've come to report back. Luo Yu got off the horse and presented Mao Dun's head to Feng Xingjian. Feng Jixing waved his hand. There's no need to look at it. Bury Mao Dun properly. Tomorrow morning, go to the valley to bury the corpse. After all, many wolf soldiers are only sacrificing their lives for Mao Dun. We mustn't let their corpses be exposed in the wilderness. Yes. Luo Yu nodded. The difference between Feng Jixing and LV Zhao was that although Feng Jixing would also make the same choice, he maintained the most basic respect toward his enemies. This was also why Feng Jixing was outstanding when it came to using troops. His meticulousness was admirable. Mr. Guanxing, how are you? Feng Jixing also noticed another person. Guanxing quickly knelt down and said, Your Highness, I got lost when I got up at night and accidentally saw the scene of General Luo Yu carrying out her official duties. So I followed her here. Do you blame me? Feng Jixing went straight to the point. Guanxing was stunned in an instant. Feng Jixing laughed at himself and said, I think you definitely will. After all, you have been in the northern desert for so many years and must have some feelings with them. Now that I have killed so many northern desert wolf soldiers, maybe the thing you want to do the most is to put the dagger on your waist into my heart. But if you really think so, I will not blame you. This matter is indeed Feng Jixing did not keep my promise. Guanxing hurriedly cupped his fists and said, This subordinate definitely did not mean that. On the contrary, I can understand why your highness did that. There is no need to be soft-hearted when it can be done once and for all. If this subordinate was in your highness' position, I think I would also do the same. Get up. There's no need to kneel. Feng Jixing nodded and said, Clear the troops tomorrow. Leave 10,000 people to guard Muyu City and the rest of the troops will follow me to reinforce Zhangnan Province. His Highness Qin Yin and Lord Chu Chu must be having a hard time there. They have to face the 300,000 troops of Tianji Empire. 300,000. Just at this moment there was a panting voice from outside, Yu Shu. Your Highness. He stumbled his way into the tent. Zhang Wei frowned, How can you be so reckless? Trespassing into the big tent is a capital offense. Men drag him out and chop him. The messenger waved the letter in his hand and said, This is Her Highness Qin Yin's Yu Shu. What? Feng Jixing broke the void and teleported 7 to 8 meters away before grabbing Yu Shu's letter with one hand. He saw a very elegant line of words on it and it was Qin Yin's handwriting. General Feng, I have returned and am currently mobilizing troops in Lingtian Province with older brother Yu. One request for you to reinforce Zhangnan Province with the fastest speed and must not let the Tianji Empire break through the city walls, otherwise Lanyan City will fall into a desperate situation. Her Highness Qin Yin. Her Highness Qin Yin is indeed back. Feng Jixing gripped Yu Shu's letter tightly and laughed wildly towards the sky. Ha! Great. Me and you have finally waited for this day. Your Majesty King of Light, Feng Jixing have finally lived up to expectations and waited for Her Highness Yin's return. Ah. Chapter 918. Zhangnan Province, west bank of Daojiang. Flags were fluttering on the steel wall. The morning mist was quickly dispersed by the sun, turning into raindrops that splashed on this fertile land. The temperature in Zhangnan Province was very mild in all 4 seasons, which was suitable for growing all kinds of crops. That was why it became one of the central provinces that produced food in the whole empire. But at this moment, Zhangnan Province had become the battlefield of the decisive battle between the Qin Empire and the Tianji Empire. The atmosphere on the wall was tense. The shiny magic crystal cannons were pointing at the distance, ready to fire at any time. Qin Yin held his sword and walked on the wall in his military uniform. This was what he had to do every day, check the defense. Since Prince Zhong was checking in person, the soldiers naturally couldn't slack off. On the other side, flags were fluttering in the wind. At least 200,000 soldiers of the Tianji Empire were waiting. They hadn't attacked the city yet, probably because the siege equipment hadn't been completed, and there was still a wide Daojiang in the middle. If they didn't solve this problem, the Tianji Empire wouldn't be able to break through the steel wall with just the Dragon Knights. Chu Chu, is my cousin really back? Qin Yin suddenly asked. Yes. Chu Chu stroked his white beard and smiled. Her Highness Qin Yin's last reincarnation was in the Western Heaven Realm, and she accidentally became a golden-winged battle angel. That Qin is Her Highness. Things in the world are so coincidental. When you fought with Bailey Qin in front of the dragon-slaying pass, he used his bloodline to trigger the bloodline resonance of Qin, awakening the god-binding chains and memories deep inside her body. So, Empress Qin Yin really came back. That's great, That's great. Although he had heard this news for 2 days, Qin Yin was still very excited. Once my cousin comes back, the whole world will be loyal to us and our Qin Empire will be saved. Yes, but... Chu Chu looked at the other side and said, Ah Yin, you should look at the enemy in front of you first. Bai Ming Huan will attack soon. He won't wait for you and Feng Jixing's army to attack the steel wall. Yes, I understand. Qin Yin said, as long as I guard this place for half a month or even 10 days, eldest brother and Prince Xan will definitely come to provide reinforcements. Moreover, cousin princess will come as well. Yeah. Chu Chu squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. He said, Yin, look in that direction. The Qinji Empire seems to be assembling some kind of weapon. It must be prepared for us. Qin Yin gazed into the distance, only to see a group of Qinji Empire soldiers circling around a pitch-black big guy. Qin Yin's body immediately trembled. Magic crystal cannon? That's right. Scholar Ling, who was standing next to him, said with a smile, the Qinji Empire has intercepted at least 100 of our magic crystal cannons. Although most of them have been damaged, some of them should still be usable. Once they launch an attack, they must have figured out how to use them. When that time comes, I'm afraid that the steel wall will not only have to face the Dragon Knight Sword Qi, but also the magic crystal cannon's bombardment. My God! Qin Yan's expression changed drastically and he said, we don't have the Dragon Imperial Battle Spiral to defend against the magic crystal cannons. Once they use the magic crystal cannons to bombard us, I'm afraid a huge hole will be made in one shot. The entire steel wall will simply be useless. Scholar Ling said, I think that Lord Chu Chu definitely has a way, right? Chu Chu muttered, there's only one way, and that is to use the physical body to intercept the magic crystal cannons in the air. After all, they won't have too many magic crystal cannons. Furthermore, they aren't that adept in using them. The Beaming King and Ice Palm Fire Fist are gods who possess divine walls. It can't be any better for them to intercept the magic crystal cannons. Scholar Ling grinned. Lord Chu Chu, you have a divine wall too. Why don't you go? I'm already old. At my age, you still want me to go block the cannon muzzle? Chu Chu said with a smile. Scholar Ling waved his paper fan and also smiled. Alright then. Just take it as the white leaf four absolutes having a bitter life. The successors call you Grandpa, so we must also call you Grandpa. We mustn't mess up the seniority. In the distance, 10 miles away, it was a lively scene outside the Qinji Empire's main tent. A large group of people surrounded a magic crystal cannon and pointed at it. They were all beaming with joy and spittle flying everywhere. It's this big guy that killed hundreds of our warriors with one shot. Yeah, even fierce beasts like the tiger leopard cavalry would be blown into pieces by one shot. The people of the Great Qin Empire are all monsters. They can even make this kind of iron monster. So that's how it should be used. Our counselors have no clue at all. A bunch of idiots who only know how to make gold coins and play with women. When it comes to the critical moment, they can't even make a single hair. In the main tent, Bai Ming Huan's face turned green. He said, still no clue? Yes. Castor frowned and said, we still can't figure out how to ignite and fire it. It's so frustrating. Our captives don't want to tell us either? So far, we haven't caught a single captive who knows how to use the magic crystal cannon. Bai Ming Huan slammed his palm on the table and said, Southern Ridge has been turned upside down. I heard that Xin has awakened her memory. She is the Empress of the Qin Empire, Qinin. Now Lin Muyu, Su Jiantao, and Xin have already defeated the trash of the Blackstone Empire in Southern Ridge. Even the Saint Martial God Bailey Qin was killed. If we still can't sweep through the Iron Wall and go straight to Lanyan City to take over the capital, I'm afraid there will be a lot of changes if we stay here for too long. Yes, General. Castor said, how about we find a chance to send someone to sneak into the Iron Wall and catch someone who knows how to use the magic crystal cannon? Bai Ming Huan sneered, why bother? If it's something that can be done with gold coins, then there's no need to take the risk. Since there's no result, I'll go see someone tonight, and we'll have a conclusion tomorrow morning. Yes. Late at night, a quiet city in the Cangnan province had fallen into a deep sleep. Yuqian County was a land of fish and rice. It was surrounded by water on 3 sides, and the fishing industry was very developed. With enough water irrigation, this place produced a lot of rice every year. It was a very rich city. In the county capital, an old man was sitting leisurely in the yard, enjoying the wine and beauties. Late at night, there were still 2 enchanting dancers kneeling by his legs pouring wine for him. The old man seemed to be enjoying it very much. His hands wandered over the dancer's shoulders and back, feeling the softness and smoothness of his palm. This Cangnan province was a good place, and the beauties here were also the best in the world. Marquis Yu Zhong, a vassal of the Qin family. He was already 62 years old and could be counted as a three-generation vassal. He had 2,000 guards in his hand, and the Yuqian county was only 30 miles away from the Iron Wall. While the war was going on, he was living a very luxurious life. Swoosh! A figure suddenly appeared in the air. It was a middle-aged man in a golden robe. He smiled and said, "Marquis, you are in a good mood. You still haven't gone to bed in the middle of the night?" Yang Zhong hurriedly looked up, and a trace of surprise flashed across his face. He hurriedly signaled the two dancers to leave, and then knelt on the ground saying, "Yang Zhong, kneel to greet General Baiming." Baiming Huan slowly landed, picked up the wine pot on the table and took a big gulp. He said, "The wine of the Shattered Cauldron realm is so much better than the ones in the Celestial Pole continent. I wonder what general is here for today. I have a favor to ask of you." "Oh." Yang Zhong was a bit surprised and said, "What is it?" Baiming Huan smiled, sat down and said, "In the Battle of Lingdong, we got quite a lot of magic crystal cannons, and we were planning to follow up our victory and sweep the western region with our magic crystal cannons. But we ran into a problem. We only have magic crystal cannons and shells, but we don't know how to fire them or how to calibrate them." Yang Zhong immediately understood why Baiming Huan was here. He cupped his fists and said, "But General Baiming, I am only a civil official. Things like magic crystal cannons are all supervised by the weapon department, and I can't help you." "Can't help you?" Baiming Huan took out a stack of gold notes and said, 100,000 Jianghu coins, 30 in total. "Is this enough to buy the method of using magic crystal cannons?" "This." Yang Zhong's face turned green. Baiming Huan sneered, "What? Do you still think you are a loyal official of the Qin family? Don't forget, you sold the defense map of the Dongshuang city to us for 200,000 Jianghu coins. Do you want to back out now? I still have your letter. If I give it to Lin Muyu, what do you think will happen to you?" "Haha, General, you must be joking." Yang Zhong said, "We are all businessmen, why should we hurt each other? The usage and calibration of the magic crystal cannons are not impossible. I can bribe one of the generals on the steel wall and have him join your army. Naturally, it won't be difficult to obtain the usage of the magic crystal cannons." Baiming Huan laughed, Good. It is so good to have a friend like you in the Tianji Empire. But when will that guard friend of yours come?" 3 days later at the same place." "No, 2 days. I will decide the place." "Yes, General." Yang Zhong's face was covered in sweat. Baiming Huan was indeed a cunning old fox. The light flashed and Baiming Huan had already left as if he had never been here. But the stack of gold notes on the stone table was real, and they were all from Lanyan City. The Tianji Empire must have taken a lot of these notes along the way. Right now Baiming Huan was not short of money. He just needed help. On the 5th day of the 7th month, when the sky was just beginning to brighten, a large army marched out of Linghan City in the dark of the night. The vanguard of the army headed straight for the northwest direction, which was the direction of Cangnan province. Finally, the troops under Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's command set out. A majestic army of 60,000 elites, carrying a large number of magic crystal cannons, and other supplies, galloped along the main road. Chapter 919. 3 days later, the army left Tiger Subdue Pass in the north and officially passed through the Qinling Mountains. In another 3 days they would almost reach the area protected by the steel walls. The heavens were not in their favor. At this moment it started to drizzle. Lin Muyu quickly opened 2 umbrellas and handed one to Qin Yin and one to Tang Xiaoxi. Then she took the 3rd umbrella from Wei Chou. The march could not be delayed, but the army had prepared very little rain gear. There were only a handful of people qualified to hold umbrellas. Qin Yin seemed to remember something. She picked up the long sword hanging on the horse's back and said, "Hear this, it's time to return it to its owner." Stellar sword. Lin Muyu finally realized that this was her sword. She could not help but ask in surprise, "I remember that brat Xiao Pingwa took the stellar sword with him. Why is it with Xiaoyin?" Qin Yin smiled faintly. "Xiao Pingwa gave it to me. I didn't know at the time, but now I understand. He took something from you and gave it to me. Big brother, did Xiao Pingwa give you anything strange?" "Well, Lin Muyu searched her Qingquan pouch and took out a sharp sword. Here there are words carved on it. The hilt is in the shape of a cross. It should be a crusader broadsword. You know it? I've seen a similar sword in the Banished Lands. Xiao Pingwa must have taken it from someone when he was playing in the Banished Lands. It's strange, why is Xiao Pingwa in the Banished Lands? I've always kept it in a different space, but I've never been to that space. Maybe it's the Banished Lands. As she spoke, Lin Muyu took out a pile of cloth from her Qingquan pouch. This was also given to me by Xiao Pingwa from the Banished Lands. It looks like a coarse dress. It's so short. Qin Yin's face instantly turned red. That's me, Lin Muyu was shocked. You didn't really wear it, did you? And? Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's, and her face was blushing. Lin Muyu snorted. Come to think of it, this holy dragon has never done anything like a holy dragon. What is this? He gave me Xiao Yin's dress and it's the original one. Qin Yin's face turned even redder. Brother Yu, what are you talking about? Tang Xiaoxi raised her umbrella and said with a smile, That's right. It was clearly Little Apple who brought you and Xiao Yin together, but you didn't know how to appreciate his kindness. Oh no, you didn't know how to appreciate the dragon's heart. In the different space, Acatosaurus let out a joyful cry. Then, a spatial rift was torn open and it had already climbed out. Clouds floated around it as it slowly twisted its body and flew next to Lin Muyu, looking like it was waiting for a reward. Lin Muyu patted Xiao Pingwa's head and said, All right, you did a great job. Although I didn't recognize this dress and Xiao Yin also lost her memory at the time and couldn't remember the stellar sword in me, you still have some conscience and did a good deed. As she spoke, Lin Muyu folded the dress again and put it back into her Qingquan pouch. Do you still want to keep it? Qin Yin asked. And it's worth commemorating. After all, Xiao Yin wore it in the Banished Lands. This proves that the conditions in the Banished Lands must be very difficult. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to wear such a coarse dress. And? Qin Yin nodded. The Banished Lands is a place without laws. There is only slaughter and plunder. I unified the entire plane during my days in the Banished Lands, but after I leave, the place will definitely fall into chaos again. The Banished Lands is a huge plane dump. People who have been exiled from various major planes will enter the Banished Lands. There is endless strife there and there will never be peace. It's a good place to train. Lin Muyu rubbed her nose. Tang Xiaoxi glanced at her and said, Mu, you're already a god king. Coupled with that abnormal formless elephant spell, you'll only be bullying people if you go to the Banished Lands. Bullying people is also a kind of training. After all, the premise of upholding justice is that the power of justice is stronger than evil. This is only natural. After we've pacified this plane, we can consider traveling to the Banished Lands. What do you think? Are you going? The two great beauties immediately nodded in unison. Yes, of course we're going. Wei Chou asked carefully, Your Highness, can I go? What are you going to do? Lin Muyu asked. I'll serve you tea and water. No need. Lin Muyu looked back at Wei Chou and said, Wei Chou, you're not young anymore. Isn't it time for you to get married and have children? You're Duke Wei after all. How can you always be alone? Wei Chou took a deep breath. The country is still in danger. How can I be in the mood to get married? Let's think about how to win the Battle of Cangnan Province. What do you think? The Tianji Empire has deployed 300,000 soldiers to attack the Steel Wall this time. Marshal Baiming Huan's strength can't be underestimated. He also has the help of the Tianji Empire's main force, the Dragon Knights. It's said that Lin Tonghai Dora and other God-State warriors have also come from the 8 Wastelands to help. Moreover, their chief strategist is that Gong Xiangming. This is even more difficult to deal with. Whether it's by force or wits, we don't have an absolute chance of winning. Gong Xiangming again. Lin Muyu frowned. It's not easy to deal with. But Qin Yin asked, Dora is here too. Yes, our Warhawk scouts saw Dora, Luo Fei and Dali from afar. Lin Tonghai is also here. It should be true. The Tianji Empire has gathered the superior forces of the Northern and Southern Legions and is planning to break through the steel protective wall of Cangnan Province. As long as the steel protective wall is broken, they will be able to march straight in and attack the heart of the empire, Lanyan City. Don't worry, they won't have this chance. Lin Muyu said with a cold face, Send out all our scouts and have them explore and pave the way forward 24 hours a day. Don't be careless. Bring the army and try to reach the battlefield in 2 days. Yes. Tianshu Province was closer to Cangnan Province, so Feng Jixing's speed was faster. The day before Lin Muyu's troops arrived at the steel wall, Feng Jixing had already led 100,000 soldiers to the steel wall. The army was stationed in the Unicorn Forest behind the steel wall, while Feng Jixing led the Imperial Guard cavalry directly into the steel wall. Qin Yan and Chu Chu welcomed them in person. Feng Jixing's 100,000 soldiers were like a dose of calming medicine, putting Qin Yan and Chu Chu at ease. "General Feng, you're here." Chu Chu greeted him with a smile. "Greetings, Chu." Feng Jixing cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Let's go, we'll go to the top of the wall to take a look. You guys also tell me in detail about the battle situation these 2 days." "Yes." Climbing up the high wall, everyone looked into the distance. On the other side of the Daojiang River, there were already densely packed battle flags of the Tianji Empire. Furthermore, the riverside was filled with bamboo rafts and wooden boats. The army of the Tianji Empire had practically cleared out the forest on the east bank and built countless wooden rafts that could be used to cross the river. This scene looked exactly the same as when the demon race attacked, except that the Tianji Empire did not build high walls and used projectile tactics to shoot armor demons over. Looking at the land in the east, Feng Jixing could not help but suck in a breath of cold air, saying, "What a majestic and mighty army. No wonder they were able to defeat Yu's Longdan army camp in Lingdong province." Qin Yan said, "They did not defeat them, but Big Brother chose to take the initiative to retreat and deal with them. He did not confront them head-on." "That's right. He was very wise. The total strength of the Flowing Wind Army and the Divine Cloak Army is more than 10 times that of the Longdan Army camp. Adding the Dragon Knights and the practitioners of the Divine Cloak Army, the chances of the Longdan Army camp winning is probably less than 10%. Avoiding the battle is the wisest choice." Feng Jixing turned around and flew to the sky outside the city. Looking at the uneven grooves on the steel wall, he said, "They already attacked yesterday." "Yes, they attacked for 2 days." Qin Yan said, "But they were all small attacks. They only used a small portion of the Divine Cloak Army's front line. They tried to use the profound energy of the practitioners to break through the wall, but they failed. Our magic crystal crossbows are able to completely restrain the practitioners of the Divine Cloak Army." "Is that so? How many magic crystal crossbows are left?" "Around 30,000. We used 20,000 yesterday." Ayen. Feng Jixing helplessly patted Qin Yan's shoulder and said, "You are too honest. If you have the time, you should learn from your big brother Yu. The Divine Cloak Army's actions are obviously to exhaust our magic crystal crossbows. Now that you have used up all of your resources, I want to see how you are going to defend against their next round of attacks." Qin Yan's face was overwhelmed with shock. "This? I have never thought of it." "Forget it." Feng Jixing looked into the distance and pointed at a certain place on the city wall. "Head south from here. Withdraw all the troops and replace them with my men. They are more experienced in fighting the Tianji army." "Yes." "Is there any news from Yu's side? When will he arrive?" "Yesterday's letter said that he will arrive in 2 days. Calculating it, at this time tomorrow, Big Brother and His Majesty cousin sister should be here with 60,000 troops." "That's great." Feng Jixing grinned and rubbed his palms together. "In that case, as long as I can hold on for 1 day when Yu arrives, I'll be able to quit and let him take charge of the situation." Ouyang Yin smiled faintly at the side. "Prince Xian Feng Jixing. As expected, he is a hands-off shopkeeper. The real hands-off shopkeeper is Her Highness who is together with you." Feng Jixing touched his nose and smiled bitterly. "How am I considered a hands-off shopkeeper? I have the body of a shop assistant and the life of a shopkeeper. I haven't received a single cent of military pay, and I've wasted 6 years of my youth." Chu Chu, Scholar Ling and the others did not wish to speak anymore. Zhang Wei, Luoyu and the others could not help but laugh out loud. Ouyang Yin said, "Your youth isn't worth much anyway. Why are you feeling sorry for yourself here? When Her Highness Qin Yin arrives, you can ask for military pay." Qin Yin was surprised. "Your Highness Prince Xian, it can't be that you haven't received any military pay for the past 6 years, right? What do you think?" Feng Jixing glanced at him. Qin Yin revealed a look of respect. "Then how did you endure for so many years?" At the side, Luoyu said, "Your Highness Prince Zhong, when Zhang Wei confiscated the assets of a corrupt official in Tianshu province 2 years ago, he kept half of the Jinin coins as the military pay for the Imperial Guards. As the commander, there are naturally many benefits as well. Don't think that he doesn't have any military pay. He is eating and drinking well every day. Don't mention it." Luoyu. Feng Jixing continued to look toward the east and said, If Bai Minghuan attacks today, you will be the first to fight. Yes, Commander. Luo Yu cupped her fists, looking confident. Chapter 920. In the immortal world, beams of light exploded in the midst of the Spirit Mountains. This was already the 27th day since the war between the Eastern and Western immortal world. Both sides had gathered tens of thousands of Spirit Mountains to boost their godly energy, and gathered over 30,000 godly realm experts to fight against each other. This war had destroyed countless Spirit Mountains and destroyed countless planes. It was already impossible to calculate how many Spirit Mountains had been destroyed in this war. A war between the gods was destined to be a calamity for mortals. This was inevitable. Boom. The flaming battle axe slashed across the sky, as if it was tearing the heavens apart. The flaming axe light tore through the air and directly turned two four-winged angels into ashes. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor was at the forefront of the battle formation. Facing the human wall formed by the entire angel army in front of him, he showed no fear. After striking with the Pangu axe in his left hand, he quickly raised the Xianyuan sword in his right hand and laughed loudly. Come on, come on. The more people there are, the easier it is for me to kill. Let me see how capable you long-haired birdmen are. In the center of the human wall, Ruler Claude's entire body was covered in lightning. Rays of light shot out from his body, almost raising the power of the law of light to the extreme. He shouted in a low voice, "Xian Eva, attack with me." A ball of light enshrouded Eva's palm. She nodded and said, "Ruler, you must be careful. This attack from the seven luminaries Demon Emperor is not simple." Xian frowned slightly. The sharp sword in her hand emitted a light that soared into the sky. She shouted in a low voice, "Seventh slash, God slaying." Behind the seven luminaries Demon Emperor, Xiao Fairy looked into the distance. She could not help but tremble. Demon Emperor, be careful. Claude's attack is very strong. Xian's slash behind him is also very sharp. You must not underestimate her. I will strengthen your shield and life force. You must use your strongest attack to deal with it. With that, Xiao shouted softly. The divine power in her body whistled out. It was the power of the law of life. Green divine power turned into a boundless domain that spread around the seven luminaries Demon Emperor. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor felt as if he was bathing in a spring breeze. The divine power that he had lost was also recovering rapidly. It was as if he had been resurrected. Come on. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor's fighting spirit rose. He laughed and shouted at the Western Divine Realm's Angel Legion. You useless trash. All of you are weak chickens. If you have the guts, come and fight me. Dai. Stupid idiot Ming throwing Lu Mao. Claude's face turned ashen when he uttered that line of Cantonese. Fight. With a roar, Claude raised his palm. Light shot out. Beams of light gathered in the space. In the blink of an eye, they shot through several spiritual mountains in East Heaven. Even a few God King powerhouses were turned into blood mist. They were evaporated by the power of light. As the ruler of the Western Divine Realm, Claude naturally had his strengths. Xian brandished her sword. The sword light descended from the sky. The scorching power could be felt from afar. This attack was indeed worthy of its name, God slaying. Ordinary gods, even God emperors, might not be able to withstand the fatal attack of this seventh slash. Come at me. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor suddenly turned around. With a light flip of his wrist, power whistled out from the Xianyuan sword. He shouted, "Come, have a taste of my seven glorious stars transformation." Boom, boom, boom. Behind the Devil Emperor, there seemed to be a canopy of stars that led straight to another world. At this moment, the power of countless resplendent stars in that canopy of sky was bombarding the human wall of the Western God realm with a destructive force. Cries of agony and wails filled the air. Countless feathers were scattered in the air. Countless two-winged and four-winged angels had died to the power of the stars. The seven glorious stars transformation was already terrifying enough to begin with, let alone when it was strengthened by the Xianyuan sword. The seven brilliance Demon Emperor's attack had killed at least 100 divine kings and over 1,000 ultimate gods. Block it. Claude held the wall of light in his hand and continuously resisted the impact of the seven glorious stars transformation. Finally, with a poochie sound, he spat out a large mouthful of blood. Even the law spirit beads that flew out of his body shattered. He was already seriously injured. Protect the ruler. Shi Yin waved her long sword and slashed dozens of times in a row. Light surged and forcefully shattered the power of dozens of stars. She was not in a good state either. Her face was pale and she had used too much power. However, she still looked behind her and shouted, "Eva, what are you waiting for? Take the ruler and leave through the wormhole." "Yes." Eva suddenly hugged Claude's injured body. With a wave of her palm, a huge black hole appeared behind her. A light flashed and her and Claude's bodies disappeared into the darkness. No one knew where they went. Shi Yin suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. At that moment she completely gave up resisting. Her beautiful eyes were filled with despair. She gently opened her arms and watched the 7 luminaries demon emperor fly toward her. Buzz, buzz. The Shenyuan sword emitted faint holy power and directly pressed against Shi Yan's neck. The blade was very sharp and could pierce through her skin at any time. The 7 luminaries demon emperor looked at her indifferently and sneered. "Is this the strongest seraph Shi Yin in the Western Divine Realm? You do have some tricks up your sleeve, but compared to the strongest power of my East Heaven, you are still far from it. Do you see, your master has already abandoned you and ran away? Do you still want to continue working for him?" Shi Yin closed her eyes. "Kill. Why do you have to do this?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor actually had a heart of love. He said, "If you are willing to pledge allegiance to my East Heaven, I will give Sun Feng's position to you." In the distance, Sun Feng was stunned. He didn't say anything, but he cursed in his heart. "Motherf asterisk Ker demon emperor, you are tricking me." Shi Yin smiled faintly. "No need. Kill." "Why?" Xiao flew up and asked, "Shi Yin, why do you have to work for a despicable person like Claude?" "I owe the ruler a debt of gratitude for recognizing and saving my life." Shi Yin said softly, "He saved me from the ruins and gave me the identity of a seraph. I will not betray him." "So, you are determined?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor's eyes were cold. "Go." Shi Yin closed her eyes again. But the chill on her neck suddenly disappeared. The 7 luminaries demon emperor sheathed his sword and said, "Forget it, I won't kill you. Otherwise someone will blame me." "You." Shi Yin looked at him in shock. "Why?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed. "Because you are Xin's sister. When she was in the Western Divine Realm, you took care of her a lot. Xin is Qinin. She is Lin Muyu's girlfriend, and Lin Muyu is my sworn brother. In other words, you are Lin Muyu's sister-in-law. If I kill my brother's sister-in-law, do you think he will cut me with a knife?" Shi Yin. As a seraph, Shi Yan's entire life was burdened with killing and domination. She was a serious person, but now she met the 7 luminaries demon emperor, the king of gods, who was not serious at all. For a moment she didn't know what to say. She only felt mixed feelings and her heart was in a mess. The 7 luminaries demon emperor continued, "You and Qin will ascend to heaven sooner or later, and they will definitely side with me. If you continue to be stubborn, Shi Yin, I'm afraid we will have to fight sooner or later. Today you saved Claude's life, so you have repaid the favor you owe him. Next you will owe me and you a favor. As for how you will repay it, it's up to you. Go, my celestial army is about to crush them. This time, I want the rights to rule thousands of planes in the eastern territory of the Western Divine Realm. Go back and tell Claude to wash his neck and wait for me in the temple. I will come sooner or later." Shi Yin frowned. "Demon Emperor must you kill? Why not?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor's face turned sinister. "For the sake of a sovereign lattice, Claude sent so many gods to the Shattered Cauldron realm to kill my brother. Does he think I will let him off? Go back and tell Claude that I can forgive the tens of thousands of gods in the Western Divine Realm, but not him. I want him to know the consequences of offending my brother, the 7 luminaries demon emperor. He will be reduced to ashes." Shi Yin felt a slight chill in her heart. She raised her sword and turned to leave. There were still so many angels in the sky who hadn't retreated. Their faces were filled with confusion. Kill. Sun Feng raised his long sword and streaks of light flew out from the eastern heaven realm. In the blink of an eye, the sky was once again filled with killing. This time, there was no need for the 7 luminaries demon emperor to personally take action. The outcome of this battle had already been decided. The Western Divine Realm was doomed. They had lost at least half of their god emperors and god kings. They had no way of contending against the Eastern Heaven. Looking at the Shenyuan sword in his hand, the 7 luminaries demon emperor said indifferently, "All right, your mission in the Divine Realm has been completed. Go to the human realm and continue to complete your emperor hegemony." Xiao smiled. Are you really planning to give the Shenyuan sword to you? This is your precious baby? The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled. No, it is not my precious baby. My precious baby is something else. Oh, then what is it? I don't know either. The 7 luminaries demon emperor murmured and smiled. Suddenly, he activated his divine power and locked his gaze on the shattered cauldron realm in the distance. After sensing Lin Muyu's aura, he suddenly threw the Shenyuan sword out. Immediately, the long sword was wrapped in thick flames. It directly penetrated the wall of the plane and turned into a stream of light, flying towards the human realm. At night, in the jungle of Tsangnan province, the army temporarily rested. After a day of rapid marching, many people were already exhausted. It was a summer night and there were many mosquitoes in the jungle. However, fireflies rose and fell in the grass, adding a sense of tranquility to the murderous atmosphere. Lin Muyu leaned against a towering tree and sat on the roots. She opened her right hand and hugged Qin Yin in her arms, while her left hand held Tang Xiaoxi's small hand and held her in her arms. The stars were dim. The 3 of them looked at each other and smiled. They had a tacit understanding. No one said anything and quietly enjoyed this rare peace. If only they could be together like this forever. Buzz. A ball of flames descended from the sky and landed on a rock less than 5 meters away with a bang. The rock was directly smashed into pieces and the flames rose into the sky. F***ck, what was that? Lin Muyu was shocked. The 2 beauties in her arms also turned pale. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.